Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's City Council study session, the City of Casa Grande.
She did really good.
And I think our first item on the agenda is our Community Services Department and the master plan update.
Yes, thanks, Mayor and Council.
There he is.
As you know, we've begun the early stages of our master plan, updating our community services master plan. On January 20th, we had a staff kickoff meeting, and then also that evening, we met with the Parks and Rec Advisory Board for an introductory presentation. And tonight is our first meeting in front of the City Council. And I'd like to introduce Mike Spetz with Pros Consulting, who will go over the details of our master plan.
Great, thanks, Steve. As Steve mentioned, my name is Mike Spetz. I'm a principal with Pros Consulting. I'm also a recovering Parks and Recreation Director, so I did spend 20-some years on Steve's side of the table. So tonight is really just to kind of provide you an overview of the process that we're going to touch on throughout the master plan process. So first off, from a team perspective, it's a really tight team. Pros Consulting is the prime or the project manager. We've also incorporated Kimley Horn, who is landscape architect engineering firm, who we work with pretty regularly in Arizona, in particular on master plan projects. And then East ETC Institute is a firm that just does statistically valid surveys. Pros has been in business for about 26 years, and we've been working with ETC for 25 of those years. So they are pretty much a national leader in terms of being able to survey your community and get responses that are demographically and geographically responsive to your community. So obviously a park and recreation master plan, community services master plan is really about the community. We don't make jeans, we typically don't serve food, we're not trying to make a profit, we're creating experiences, but we need to know what the experiences are that your community most desires, simply because of the fact that you don't have unlimited resources and can't be everything to everybody. So the first things first, we have a project website. That is the website down at the bottom there. To date, we've had 14 responses already. I'll compare that to a master plan project that we're doing in the city of Roseville. Their project website, unfortunately, has been up for about 6 to 8 months and probably only have twice that many comments. The comments that we've received to date have been around more skate parks, more improvements to some specific parks, trails, and nature preserve area. Nothing that's really, but it's been nothing that's really surprising, but also really interesting to note that of the 14 responses, they've been kind of a little bit of everything. There's not been one specific need that folks have responded to. This is a really good, strong start. The project website's only been up for advertised for maybe 2 weeks, and then we expect to get more feedback as we more formally engage the community as we go. So your community typically has a couple of different kind of users. You have aware users and you have non-aware users. Sometimes people are using your system and they're not even aware that it's actually City of Casa Grande. So we take kind of a deep dive approach to conducting some focus groups and key leader stakeholder meetings, but also some virtual public meetings. Typically, these are the folks that are users of your system, or they're aware of your system and their users. And so the other components that we'll dive into also are online surveys, intercept surveys, going to city special events to get people's feedback, as well as statistically valid survey. This helps us to get not just users, but also non-users. One big component of a master plan is to really understand why folks aren't using your system, why they're not taking advantage of the experiences, because you want to try and not just continue to do the same things for the same people, especially in a community that's growing and becoming more diverse, such as yours. So regarding the statistically valid survey, I can send you a 3-page document that likely would put you to sleep, but this is very algorithm-based, and we expect this to take place in the spring, March, April, and May. We're going to get a minimum of 375 completed surveys from 375 different households. In order for this to be statistically valid, it has to be demographically and geographically representative of your community. So where you have more people living in your community, we would expect to have more survey results. Where you have less people, you'll have less survey. Again, 375 is a minimum. We will also not just dive into the results of these surveys from a city-wide perspective, but we're going to look at it through 3 different geographies. So we're kind of dividing your community up east-west, but then also on the east side of your community, dividing it north-south. So we will end up with not just understanding the needs of your community as a whole, but kind of understanding the different areas of your community, different growth patterns, older neighborhoods, growth areas, to get an understanding of how those needs are different in the different geographical areas of your community. So there will be a number of cross-tabulations by household type, but also by geography as well. So we are going to do a full-blown, what we'll call public and leadership engagement strategy. And what this means is there is going to be a lot of information that comes out of this master plan. Long story short, we don't want to talk to you all now and then talk to you in December. We want to talk to the community, to staff, to the Park and Rec Advisory Board, and to you all at various stages of the project so that we can kind of break the project down into what we'll call digestible chunks and get your feedback along the way so that when we get to the end of the project, we will have turned over every stone. We'll have had every conversation along the way. And so we're committed to kind of doing what we'll call 5 different milestones, but a series of meetings within each of those. That includes policy leaders such as yourself, to the community as a whole. So all of this will ultimately start to prioritize your needs, and both in terms of the programs and services that are desired by your community, but also the park and rec facilities and amenities that are needed to support those experiences. One thing that I'll say now, 2 things I'll say now about the needs. Number one, there are going to be things on the facility side of the equation that don't have a direct correlation to programs and services. Walking on a trail is not a program and a service. It's a self-directed activity, but you need trails in order for the community to do that. So there won't be this one-to-one correlation between high priority, medium priority, low priority between programs and services and facilities and amenities. The other thing that I'll point out is that there are going to be things that fall into the low priority that you might be surprised to see are in the low priority. One of the things that we start to look at when we think about low priority is simply that the reason it kind of comes out as a lower priority is simply because it's either a very age-specific activity, sports, kids sports, youth soccer, or it's a very special interest. And it doesn't mean that we don't do those things that are in the low priority. It's just that you have a tight audience, target market audience for it, and or you have to strategically do that. So I brought up the skate park. You're not going to put a skate park in every park, but you're going to have 1, maybe 2, so that are geographically balanced in your community, even though it may come out as a low priority. We are also going to look at this and commend Steve with regards to this as well, to look at your operational bucket. So senior center, rec center, library, golf course, and then general programming. We're going to evaluate all of those different divisions through different lenses because their operations are different and their target audiences are different. So we will obviously be performing operational program and service assessments, but operational assessments for each one of those specific buckets. And give you an understanding of how close to best practice you're operating, understand what staff's doing well, and where there are opportunities for improvement. The other bucket that we're going to look at is park maintenance, and this is absolutely critical. Very different operation than the others that I described, simply because this is about maintaining public spaces and parks and facilities. The programs and services that take place in parks and facilities are typically only as good as the maintenance that takes place in those parks and facilities. I always say that you could decide that you're going to have a wedding shower for somebody. First thing you think about is the location in which you're going to do that. And typically, you're going to want to find a location that you know is safe and clean and in repair. Parks are the exact same way. We have to ensure that you have a strong park and ground maintenance program. So there's a whole different level of standards and evaluation that will go into this as well. We are actually have already conducted an inventory and assessment. Kimberly Horn has done that already, and we're certainly going back and forth with staff right now to ground truth and ensure that all of the information regarding your existing system is taking place. So this is just some information from the City of Chandler, but it gives you an understanding of the kind of information that will come out of this from an amenity perspective, as well as an overarching theme perspective when it comes to park amenities and park maintenance. We're also going to dive into what we'll call level of service. So we are very impressed right now with the amount of acreage, of park acreage, and the facilities that you provide to your community. And what we're anticipating coming out of this is to say that you have a current level of service. In other words, X number of park acres for every 1,000 people. Given the fact that your community is going to continue to grow, but you also have undeveloped parkland, we're not anticipating coming out of this that we're going to change your level. What we're going to do is to recommend that as you go forward, that you look to develop the parkland that is currently undeveloped in the ways that your community wants to utilize it the most, and or in concert with other potential development that is going to be taking place on any of those sites. So we want to ensure that we right-size your level of service. We're big on ensuring that you have implementable, realistic, and financially sustainable recommendations around this, and it doesn't make sense for us to give you recommended levels of service that you can't sustain going forward. So we will also in turn map all of your park areas, amenities, and understand how balanced you are in terms of providing services to your community, from neighborhood parks to community parks to regional parks to even ramadas, playgrounds. This will be extremely important that when we start getting into looking at what needs to go into your undeveloped parkland, not just needs of the community, but also ensuring that you have equitable access to the experiences that your community wants. We are going to conduct a connectivity analysis. We are going to identify missing trail segments, opportunities to expand the trail system, and then prioritize those opportunities. The foundational piece of this is going to be your existing trails plan. But we don't want to just assume that your trails plan is at the end of the day the end-all be-all for your trail system, because we know that you're going to be developing future parkland. So there may be opportunities to incorporate trail recommendations that aren't in your your trail plan, simply because of the parkland that you're going to develop in the future. This is just an example of work that we did in Oro Valley, where we identified almost a full alphabet's worth of possible trail segmentations, and then we put some costs to this. Oro Valley did not have the financial threshold to incorporate all of these within the next 10 years, so we did end up prioritizing the top 5 or 6 for them to focus on going forward. And then, as I mentioned, you do have undeveloped parkland, and so we are going to look to develop concept plans. This is another example of something from Oro Valley, but potentially we've identified 3 potential sites for these concept plans, one of them being at the Recreation Center, possibly opportunities to expand aquatics, since that was not acted upon as part of the existing Recreation Center project. But we'll end up developing concept plans and providing cost estimates for you. There will be opportunities for the public to weigh in on these concept plans along the way, so that we in turn can make sure that what ends up being in the master plan is representative of what your community wants. And then we are going to do cost estimating for capital improvements. We're not going to give you a capital improvement plan that you feel like as part of a master plan you're adopting as part of your budget process. It's just going to be cost estimates for all of these improvements. But that said, this entire plan is going to be rooted in what we call total cost of ownership. So you have a capital improvement. That's one-time money. Sometimes that comes from the general fund, sometimes it comes from other taxing sources, sometimes it comes from grants, but that's one-time dollars. We have to ensure that you have the operations and maintenance dollars to support those capital improvements. And that is usually where the rub starts to make sure that we're creating financially realistic and sustainable plans and recommendations for you. On the other side is that anything that you build doesn't last forever. So there's always a life cycle replacement component to this, and this is going to be something extremely important for us to continue to talk about as we go through this process. There are going to be opportunities in your system to just replace playgrounds, or just replace ramadas, or replace athletic field lighting, but none of that happens all at the same time. And so as we make recommendations to you, we're going to look at all of these costs to ensure that you know kind of what you're getting yourself into in terms of one-time dollars, what you need to appropriate annually from an operations and maintenance perspective, and then also just keeping an eye on the future when it comes to life cycle replacement. So we will then create this cost estimating capital improvement plan in 3 buckets. The first bucket is just life cycle replacement. What in your existing system needs to be life cycle replaced over the next 10 years? Just because this master plan is going to have a 10-year planning horizon does not mean, though, that come year 11, you're done with life cycle replacement. It is a continual and perpetual thing associated with a park system. The second bucket is looking at your existing park system and identifying opportunities for improvement without having to develop raw land. So it could be loop trails, it could be additional picnic shelters, it could be playgrounds, could be skate parks. This allows us an opportunity to say, how can you make the most of what you have already to better meet community needs, and in turn have those parks utilized even more. And then lastly, there's the visionary bucket. This is likely going to be where the concept plans fall in. These are going to be undeveloped park acreage, and the plans and the costs associated with it. Typically, the third bucket is the most expensive bucket. The first bucket is kind of in the middle of the road. The second bucket is kind of the least expensive. But the nice part as we go through this process is you'll have opportunities from this park system master plan to, at the end of the day, understand how to improve your existing system while at the same time building new, and prioritize that. And then ultimately we create this kind of summary. Again, I think this was from Oro Valley. It was a little steep. We ended up having to cut it back, but at the end of the day, it gives you an understanding going in what that total cost estimating plan looks like. And then the key, and this is the give and take, is the funding strategy specific to your city. what can you afford? What funding strategies do you have to support each and every project, so that we can create implementable and sustainable recommendations for you. So our overall project timeline, meeting series number 1, we are going to kind of round that out with a virtual community meeting via Zoom on February 16th. The meeting series 2 is going to be in May, June, and this is really going to be public needs and park and facility assessments. So this is reporting back to the community what we heard from you all, as well as the state of your existing park system. Meeting series 3, key technical findings. That's the level of service. That's when we start getting into the mapping and we start diving into the concept plans. Meeting series 4 is everything kind of coming all together with regards to the cost estimating on the capital improvement side, the operational assessments, and then start to craft out the implementation plan. So that when we get to meeting series 5, which is basically adoption, as I said before, we'll be in a position where you'll kind of have heard that all before. So I, at this point, can take any questions, concerns, comments, suggestions you may have.
Mr. Powell?
One of the things I will mention is a lot of the trails are cement sidewalks is what they are.
Yeah.
And for equestrians and some of the mountain bikers and stuff like that, they need to have areas that they can use also the same way. And then we've got a jewel out there at North Mountain Park. If we would do more with it, it's got a lot of ability to bring people out.
Great. Thank you.
Lisa?
And to kind of piggyback, of course, making sure we get to a wide range of people in the community is important. You know, if this is a plan that's going to carry us through the next 10 years, you know, making sure that we get that representation on the feedback is really critical. So, and that was my question is, you know, are you going to go into the communities and specifically the surveys? Is it going to be Spanish language as well? Are you going to try to get into the communities to make sure that we're getting feedback from a wide range of people, not just one particular neighborhood or you know, part of our community? So I just wanted to make sure that it's diverse and we're getting feedback from a broad
Yes, that's
range.
I would agree, and
think it was in your
we
first
can't
slides
move
you talked
forward if we don't feel like we have good representation from your community as a whole. Correct.
Right.
Anybody else? Looks good. When we get the schedule a little more solidified, would you make sure that the council gets a copy of that?
Sure, sure.
Thank you. 'Cause I think some of us would like to be there or help participate.
Yeah, for instance, our community meeting is February 16th. I'll make sure you have a link to, it's a virtual meeting.
Right, saw that.
It's on the council calendar.
We'll separate it from the calendar. Send us the Zoom link.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Steve, anything else?
No.
Okay, great.
You know, I would
Thank
say
you.
one more thing, which I always do with you.
Yes, Mr. Powell.
If you go down Rodeo Road and across the wash, there's an Indian village on federal land that's historic. It's been there. There's a village. You can actually see if it rains, you can see the walls of what was there at one time. When Jim was here, he checked with ASU, but we've never known how to make that available to other people. So that might be something to put on your list.
Okay. That'd be an interesting addition. All right, we'll go to the next item then on our list, which is discussion with the city manager on our capital improvement projects. Mr. Raines?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, appreciate the opportunity to present this evening on our City of Casa Grande Capital Improvement Program. And as you can tell by the presentation, it is somewhat broad in what is actually included that I'll be covering this evening. But ultimately, I want to capture three specific sections of our CIP. Number one is an update on our fiscal year 22, where we're at in that process. I want to speak just briefly on our fiscal year 23, give the council a glimpse of our fiscal 23 program. Obviously, that is in the works. The mayor and council will be considering that as part of the annual budget process. And most importantly, I want to talk a little bit about some of our future projects that we're seeing that are ultimately being requested in our 5-year plan of our capital improvement program. And I want to focus a bit on the funding sources for that. And the mayor and council may recall that at our earlier retreat in the years we were focused on strategic planning, we had some discussions about the fact that I think Casa Grande has done a fantastic job in building the amenities and the quality of life items on a pay-as-you-go system. And but as growth transpires in the community, and we ultimately need to maintain levels of service and keep up with that growth, there will be a potential for us to look at other financing or other financing types in order to achieve that. And tonight I'll talk a little bit about the potential of a general obligation bond and get some direction from the mayor and council. I do want you to know that 30 minutes is a very rushed period of time to cover this topic, but I want the mayor and council and the community to rest assured that this is really just the very first step in this process. That ultimately, if there is some decisions tonight to have staff continue to develop the concept of other financing such as general obligation bonds, then the next process would be essentially putting more analysis and coming back before council in a study session before a decision was made on which items may go on a future ballot. So again, it really just a precursor to the presentation. Let me start by covering the fiscal year 22 update, and I have forwarded the mayor and council a copy of our fiscal year 22 capital projects. I do want the mayor and council to recognize that the primary focus that I'll have this evening on our CIP is on actual projects themselves. As all of you are aware, we do have what I consider to be a very extensive asset replacement program system here at the City of Casa Grande. And as all of you know, when you're adopting the annual budget, you typically are giving some level of authority for us to replace existing assets. I'm not really going to focus on that tonight. This is going to be new capital projects that ultimately would be coming into the organization. And so what I'd like to do is just start by simply saying that the good news is, and the mayor and council adopted after staff's recommendation, a very, what I consider to be aggressive capital improvement program for fiscal year 22, roughly $70 million worth of capital improvement projects. And as we sit here today, I'm happy to report that we have either achieved and or are underway with approximately $38 million of capital projects in fiscal year 22. Again, all of those are being funded on what I consider to be a pay-as-you-go methodology, and I'll talk a little more about that in an upcoming slide. But to give everybody a bit of the context of some of the projects that we've been able to achieve this fiscal year, we've completed Casa Grande Maricopa Highway intersection. We've started the work through the procurement of the Santa Rosa Mill and Overlay, which was another road project. The mayor and council will be considering, I know that you've seen the timeline on the traffic signal at Sunland Gin and Jimmy Kerr. We've done a fair amount of design and are preparing for construction on the Thornton widening project, specifically from Peters to Selma Road. We've completed the pier improvements, roadway improvement project from O'Neill to Cottonwood, and we are now finalizing some of our plans to do the median landscaping in that area there as well. We've started the interconnect of the traffic signals that the mayor and council has asked us to focus on. We've authorized a contract on the perimeter land fill berm and drainage. The mayor and council did that at a recent council meeting. We've started the design on the Courtson Relief Sewer Line for our wastewater treatment plant. We have started the design on the construction of a recharge project for our water reclamation plant. I need to get my definitions, my terminology more aligned with my staff. We've purchased the biosolids hauling, at least portions of the biosolids hauling equipment. As you know, with many of these pieces of equipment, vehicular, if you will, there's a significant lag from when we order it from the time we're receiving it. We've done some design on the taxiway extension to serve the airport industrial park. We're real close. So Gloria may tell me tonight that we've finished, but we're very close to finishing the Union Pacific Railroad art project on the underpass there. At the end of the month, thank you, Gloria. We're underway with the City Hall security upgrades, as many of you know when you come through City Hall. We're underway with are close to getting underway with the expansions of our communication center at the here for our public safety personnel. We continue to work on our neighborhood's park improvement system, where each year we're actually taking a park and retrofitting much of the equipment there and doing a variety of improvements. As many of you know, we've taken on the first segment of the trail design and development from Rotary Park along the Wash to Peart. That has started. The fire department is well underway with their vehicle cover and fence project. The police department is close to completion on their evidence bay expansion, and we anticipate bringing a contract before the mayor and council on our fire station 503 replacement in the very near term. So when you account for all of those projects, that's roughly $38 million worth of projects that are underway, just to give everybody a bit of a context. There's, as many of you know, there's still a number of projects that are in the pipeline. Some of those will be carried over into our fiscal year 23 budget, depending on the timing. But when you subtract the replacement of vehicles and the various assets that are included in our capital improvement program, you see that we've made pretty good strides in fiscal year 22 for with this program. If there's no questions on the 22 program, I want to just shift quickly to the fiscal 23 program. And again, this is just a bit of a glimpse, simply because we are just we're about midway through our budget process, and we'll be ultimately, I'm sorry, I'm not advancing the slides. Everybody's wondering what I'm doing here. Thanks, Stephen. We're about midway through our budget process with a budget retreat scheduled in April that will be providing more information for the mayor and council. And quite candidly, some of the feedback that we'll receive tonight and potentially at a future study session will certainly help guide the completion of our capital improvement program. But just to give the mayor and council a context of some of the projects that have been at least introduced at this point, is our financial management system replacement, airport hangar development. There's a heavy emphasis, as I explained to the mayor and council in that strategic planning retreat, there's a heavy emphasis on wastewater, water reclamation improvements in fiscal year 23 and in future years. We're to a point where we have to invest in our wastewater service in order to maintain the level of service and to continue to promote the growth that's been transpiring. A lot of the capacity that we have so enjoyed over the years is really beginning to be a bit depleted because of the amount of industrial economic development prospects that have been coming to the community. So I would say that in fiscal year 23, what we're looking at for a variety of sewer line expansion, water reclamation plant expansions, we're probably in the vicinity of about $24 million at this point. That could be a bit higher. We're finalizing a plan that'll be introduced to mayor and council in the next couple of months that will really narrow that number down for what the commitment will need to be for fiscal year 23. We also have a very aggressive transportation plan that we're trying to implement. Again, some of that coming with the pay-as-you-go, and some of that what I would consider to be, we'll be looking for the council's direction on other types of financing, and I'll talk a little more about that here in a future slide. But that includes projects from our annual maintenance to Peters Road expansion, or excuse me, Selma Highway Bridge, to Desert Valley Mill and Overlay, to Cadota Avenue reconstruction, to the continuation of Thornton Road widening, to Peart Road widening, as well as the improvements around the Pinal Tech Park that for some of the commitments that we've been making to some of our most recent economic development projects, such as Kohler. We're looking to fund the roundabout at Ash and Florence Street in fiscal year 23. Reversible lanes on Thornton Road to deal with some of the traffic that we are seeing in our industrial corridor. And we're looking to begin to implement the Florence Boulevard Streetscape project, which, by the way, I did not mention that on fiscal year '22. The design of that is underway today, and we'll be looking to essentially, much like what was expressed earlier on the Parks Master Plan, which I think is really ideal timing for what we're talking about this evening, is ultimately a planning document that we can use to build some type of an annual allocation and/or seek some type of outside financing to accelerate and achieve more of that project in any given year. And so, but we do anticipate starting the various improvements at that point as well. We'll continue to work on our community trail system. We'll also continue to implement the update of the parks, projects like replacement of the lights at Paul Mason Sportsplex, golf course improvements, facility improvements that we're anticipating at the city as well as the potential of additional fire stations that would be included in that, 501 and 502 replacements, as well as various fire apparatus that would be is necessary, and potentially, depending on the outcome of the CON, the purchases of ambulances to move into that level of service as well. So again, that's just a very quick glimpse. If the mayor and council would like me to elaborate any further on those, then I'd be happy to do so.
I think that's a pretty complete list, Larry.
Yeah. Yes, we've been quite busy, Mr. Mayor.
So say you guys aren't doing anything, are you?
No. You can tell by the expression on all the directors' face that we've been having an active game of tiddlywinks, right? No. So again, I mentioned this very briefly, but let me go into a little more depth on really the various financing of capital improvements, the methodology that we've used, and I've got another slide that'll talk a little bit about how we've used outside financing in the past, and I'll cover that when I come into to it in my slideshow presentation. We typically have taken a very conservative pay-as-you-go methodology, and as the mayor and council is quite aware, there are a variety of funding sources that can be typically allocated to capital improvement programs. One of the key elements that we always are cognizant from a management perspective is if we build something new or we add a level of service that's going to be increased, what are those operational and maintenance costs going to be in the long term? I know the council is always very interested in hearing some of that, but we do have general fund that we will typically use. Many of the time, these are one-time revenues that are driven by construction that we consider one time. And typically, if you really want to get into the accounting functionality of this, there's very few projects that are actually funded directly out of general fund. The majority of the time, the money is transferred out of the general fund and other funds to our capital improvement fund. That is typically where we're going to account for the major capital improvements, which does not really have a funding source unless there is actual monies that are transferred into that fund. But you will see from time to time on our program list that it is funded through the capital improvement program or capital improvement fund. We also fund many of the capital improvement programs or projects that are related specifically to our utility funds, such as water, wastewater, and sanitation, right out of the enterprise fund itself. Many times the funding source through these enterprise is we're essentially using the revenues that we're generating off the rates that we're charging. So if you have a large capital purchase that is going to need to be made within any future current or future fiscal year, you ultimately have to ensure that your rates are established to support that capital improvement and the operation and maintenance thereafter. One of the key funds that there's a number of funds that fall into our development impact fee fund, but there's a number of various categories ranging from public safety, police and fire, to streets, to sewer, that we're actually collecting revenues which with each house that's built, each residential dwelling that's built in the community, and or that ultimately if we've got an industrial project or a commercial project, when you're bringing in new space to the community and there's an expectation that you're going to be utilizing our services, there's a development impact fee that's charged. And fortunately for the city of Casa Grande, we are finding that our development impact fee funds are starting to replenish themselves. You know, they grew, obviously as growth grew in the mid to late 2000s, but when that stopped, obviously development impact fees are going to be contingent upon the type of growth you have in the community. And so when it slows down, the revenues slow down into those funds. But with the aggressive development that's been happening the last couple of years, we're beginning to see those fund balances improve, and ultimately there will be a number of projects that will be recommended for to be funded through our development impact fee. Again, that is based primarily on the study that the mayor and council adopts as you establish the rate, and can only be used for specific purposes. It cannot be used to replace assets. It can't be used to renovate existing infrastructure. It typically has to be a new project. Many times what you'll find with the development impact fees is that we blend those with other types of funding sources to ensure that we have enough funding to get the project completed, and they will become a very important category as we're evaluating some of the future expansion that we need to meet, that we need to achieve in Casa Grande as a result of the growth. There's also special revenue designated funds. As the mayor and council is aware, we have a sales tax that we charge on recreation, for a local sales tax that we charge specifically and is designated for recreation activities. So many of the park improvements that Mr. Hardesty and his team have been achieving the last several years is being funded through this particular funding source. And we also have construction sales tax that is the incremental increase that we actually have designated into a separate fund. The mayor and council have designated those specifically for capital improvement projects. And then lastly is bond financing, and we'll spend a little bit of time on that here tonight. There's a number of ways, and I want to make sure that I preserve enough time for the mayor and council to ask any questions and for staff to respond tonight. And so the primary focus is going to be on general obligation financing tonight. And so as I touch on some of these other financing sources, it'll be very light. Certainly if the mayor and council has any questions, I'd entertain those. But ultimately, it is a topic that I would look to cover after we receive some of the direction this evening. So a general obligation bond. And I mentioned this, I'm going to kind of give it away a little bit here. I've got a future slide that talks about Casa Grande's general obligation bond issuances that we've done and the questions that we've posed to our voters in an upcoming slide. But quite frankly, I will tell you that one of the things that I'm most impressed with about Casa Grande is that we have expanded the level of service and built a number of the amenities and facilities that we have in the community through other financing sources. Geo bonds have been used for specific types of projects. And so we had done our initial bond, I believe was in 1983 or 84, when the city asked our voters to consider allowing capacity to buy a fire truck, a fire pumper. Upon paying that off 20 years thereafter, staff began to discuss the concept with the mayor and council, and ultimately took several bond questions to the council that really focused, or to the community, that really focused on quality of life amenities, our rec center, the public safety facility, the renovations of the Lynn Cola, improvements to the Dave White Golf Course, and the library at Vista Grande. And so you'll see that we have been very diligent in selecting the projects and keeping the voters, keeping our residents, and keeping particularly the tax rates very well managed over the course of the last several decades as we have implemented some of the new projects and facilities that we need to in the community. So we've got general obligation bonds, we have revenue bonds that are available that essentially pledge utility revenues, street and highway revenue bonds, or excise and sales tax revenue bonds. The mayor and council is aware, and I'm sure many of our community members are, that we have utilized the excise and sales tax revenue bonds more predominantly than the other two. The public safety bond that was recently adopted or passed by the mayor and council that essentially funded our public safety pensions, that was an excise tax deal. We've done excise tax bonding for our wastewater expansion in the past. And so it is certainly a tool that I think that we will be recommending from a staff's perspective to the mayor and council on selected projects. Many of you know that we also have the ability to issue bonds under special districts and improvement districts. The city of Casa Grande has had numerous improvement districts over the year. Currently, over the years, that typically is going to improve streets or run infrastructure such as sewer lines into an area of town that is underserved today. And then ultimately, the city backs the bonds, and we collect those from the users of that area, the property owners of that area. We've not had a special district or improvement bond in a number of years, but they are still a tool that is very achievable. And then lastly, state agency or state support. There's a variety of programs through WIFA, through other types of what I consider to be water or wastewater type projects. There are some funding that may be available for streets, very little on the roadway infrastructure side. But ultimately, the city is well versed in the relationships that we have to maintain with the state agencies and the state support when we're looking at financing. I've talked a little bit about the pay-as-you-go funding methodology as we've moved through this. As you can see, I've tried to break down these various potential funding sources based on legal purpose. You can see that any lawful or necessary purpose for pay-as-you-go. The characteristics are it's the least costly funding method, primarily because you don't have to pay any interest on these, right? You're essentially using the funds that you have. The pay-as-you-go method will continue to be implemented in our CIP program, and I know it'll be supported by the mayor and council. There may be even some additional opportunities for us to evaluate perhaps using other fund balances in lieu of issuing bonds, but that's a decision for another night. The limitations are that you have to have funding available to proceed, and really I think that is where we're at quite candidly on the crossroads with the amount of growth that we're seeing and the need for some of the infrastructure improvements and expansions. I'm not sure that we could make it to and maintain the level of service if we were simply trying to fund it as a pay-as-you-go methodology. All projects are allowable, and given municipalities' finances, this approach is usually most applicable for smaller maintenance and improvement projects, which is what is the philosophy we've maintained. I'm gonna spend a little time on the general obligation bonds, really just to familiarize those that are not familiar with them. They can be used for any lawful or necessary purpose. They are full faith and credit bonds. They're secured by unlimited property tax pledge. So essentially, we are levying taxes on the secondary assessed value of the property owners in the community to repay that debt. And the debt service can be paid from a variety of methodologies as long as your bond documents are structured as such. But we have typically used property taxes to pay for and service the debt on our general obligation bonds. But you can also use enterprise revenues, water and sewer revenues, and highway user revenues if you elect to do so. Generally, they're the lowest cost financing. That typically is driven by your bond rating. And we've improved our bond rating over the years. We're a AA+, and so we sit in a good position to utilize this financing tool. There are some limitations. Obviously, it is subject to voter authorization. Any project must go to the voter to allow capacity, and pursuant to the Arizona Constitution and the Arizona Revised Statute, there are various limits that have to be applied and utilized when you're looking at general obligation bonds. For example, 20% of the net asset assessed limited property value for water, sewer, lighting, parks, open spaces, recreational purposes, public safety, law enforcement, fire and emergency facilities, and streets. So it's a pretty broad category for the 20%. So essentially the way that number is established is our financial advisors, our finance team will look at our secondary assessed value. They'll apply the 20% rule to that. They'll tell you what your capacity is based on that. So as your community grows and your assessed value grows, obviously so does that 20% capacity. There is a 6% rule for all other purposes. But what you'll find is that the majority of the projects that we have recommended in the past and those that we'll be recommending tonight ultimately have fallen in the 20% category. This next slide just talks about some of the types of projects. I think the mayor and council is familiar with what we've used. our general obligation proceeds to fund. But you can see that it does really span the gamut and ultimately can be used for practically all of the various service levels that we provide. You also have, and I talked just very briefly on this, the utility revenue bonds. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of depth because we're going to focus on the GEO bond tonight. But certainly as we get into the continued discussion of the capital improvement program, we'll be talking specifically about utility bonds as well as excise tax revenue bonds and potentially improvement district bonds. I know that we've got a project in a specific area of town that the developers are having some discussion with staff now about the potential of the city supporting a special improvement district. And then obviously the state agency options. As the mayor and council is aware, we do have a current WIFA loan on the expansion of our wastewater treatment plant, but you also see the other Department of Transportation, the loans that are available to organizations, municipal organizations, as they're considering funding their capital improvements. So I talked just briefly about this just a minute ago, but this just summarizes the number of times that the city has gone out to our voters to ask for general obligation capacity. The fire apparatus in 1984, and then 2006, $23,500,000 for public safety facilities, $4 million for library facilities, construction and improvements, and $19.5 for parks and recreation improvements. We have issued bonds on all of these. We've got a number of projects that have been finalized. I feel like we've done a very, very good job. The commitment that we had made to the voters in 2006 is that we would keep the secondary tax levy under $1.50 per hundred of assessed valuation. The highest I can recall that we've been is roughly 68 cents. And so in any discussion that we have with the mayor and council, we're certainly going to want to time projects and consider various bonding and the like around that tax levy. Which, by the way, based on some of the direction that we get tonight, as I mentioned, the plan would be to do a further analysis and ultimately come back with what I consider to be more detail on projects, on potential timing of those projects, on various tax rates based on the level of assessed growth and so on and so forth. But with all that being said, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, and I know that I've not given you a minute to talk yet. I'm going to try to wrap this up very, very rapidly because we've got the Youth Commission right behind me. Literally, where are they? They were just here. Maybe they walked out. Looking at our 5-year CIP, what staff elected to essentially attempt to do is really build what could be a GEO bond question for our November 22 election that ultimately are filled with projects that are very tangible, that are usable by the community. They are amenities or various improvements that would benefit a greater portion of our community. It's the similar strategy that we utilized in 2006. Incidentally enough, we had just finalized our Parks Master Plan. We had just done a community attitude survey so we could incorporate that. But the basis for these projects are essentially very similar to the philosophy of what we utilized when we went before our voters in 2006. But what I'm going to do is provide a little more detail, if I can, on these projects specifically. So the general administration is the City Hall complex and facility expansion, and we're recommending $15 million. What that would include is new facilities for both HR, IT, and finance. And as well as the potential of having some additional capacity for the expansion of this facility, perhaps, or even perhaps other facilities that may occur on our City Hall campus. The next category is fire. The mayor and council has heard about these. You all know that we're doing a pay-as-you-go funding method for 503. But there's a need for us to evaluate both location as well as upgrades to Station 501 and 502. And if you look into a 5-year window and you consider the amount of growth that we're having, it's very likely that we would be looking at the potential of another Station 505 that we could certainly include on a bond question. And I think just one element that I'd like to add to for information to the council is that once the voters approve, if they approve these bonding question, the capacity can be used at any point. It doesn't have to be used in a 5-year window. It ultimately can be used, it remains until it is used. Under Parks and Recreation, and it ties very nicely to the Trails Master, to the Parks and Recs Master Plan that was presented earlier. We've got community trail construction. Again, another project that we've been paying as you go, but as you know, you get little segments at $300,000 to $500,000 a year. What staff is recommending is $7 million to be allocated to this program to ultimately accelerate a trail system in the community, perhaps building trailheads and making those connection points that were discussed just briefly. And that would be based quite candidly on some of the results that we received from the Parks Master Plan that we're working on. Improvements at Dave White Park, which would really be a combination of improvements to the park itself. Steve and his team have done a fantastic job redoing many of the amenities there, but there's still some that need to be upgraded. The turf area probably can use a little bit of extra work, but more important, as the mayor and council is aware, we're building the recharge facility, and at least the overall concept that the mayor and council saw early on was that we would build an adaptive trail system around those ponds, perhaps with some riparian types of amenities that would go with that. So $7 million to those improvements. The Ed Hooper Park and Paul Mason's improvements, we've allocated $15 million. It's probably going, as you build that out, again, we would rely very heavily on the feedback that we get from our community on the parks master plan, but we know that we have a need today, as an example, for baseball fields, particularly for the youth programs. There's been a plan in place to add those fields. We've had some discussions about those going potentially somewhere adjacent to Dave White, but perhaps they go in this complex as well. It adds the aquatic center improvements that was just mentioned a few minutes ago that potentially could add aquatic component to the rec center. And it also brings into consideration some roadway improvements for the mayor and council's discussion tonight. Those include the 5th Street Square improvements. We talked about those improvements a number of years ago. We've not been able to find the financing, but would be a fantastic amenity for our community. Downtown street improvements, again, we've got a plan that needs to be implemented. This would allocate $5 million to that. Truckle Road improvements, this is specifically focused for the area between Rodeo Road and McCartney Road around the Union High School. We know that there's some development activity there, but that will likely finish what would be the western half of the road, but certainly would like to be able to get that project accelerated if that did not transpire, and also McCartney Road improvements. And what staff has focused on really is Truckle east to the interstate, but certainly with 25 million, we could potentially begin to go west from there as well. Again, there's development that'll happen in that corridor, but really it's just a starting point for what is for an allocation of funding to accelerate those projects. And so with that, Mr. Mayor and members of council, I know I've talked about 27 minutes too long, but I'll pause and try to entertain any questions.
Mr. Powell.
I had a question. The Dave White, let's see, was there 7 million? Aquatic Center, 7 million, City Hall, 7
Ed Hooper's 15.
million. Yeah, 15 million, Ed Hooper and the Mason.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That
Because
answers my question.
Okay. Anybody else? Matt?
So Larry, just to be clear, this is a general amount of money, and like you said earlier, it wouldn't be, once it's voted on, if it's passed, we wouldn't take it all at one time. It'd be taken as we're ready to do the projects. We wouldn't take $115 million on day one if that should happen, correct?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Herman, the answer is yes. We would ultimately issue numerous bonds over numerous years that at the end of that period would amount somewhere to $115 million if we achieve all these projects. But again, I know that the mayor and council has always considered the tax levy to service these debts, these debt payments, and it would be ultimately a project that would be multi-year, where we can maintain some level of secondary assessed levy.
And to be clear, like the Ed Hooper, the 15 million, there's nothing specific, really, it's just toward a general area, but the people at focus group meetings, like if they wanted a pool there, a skate park there, a splash pad there, that was where that would come in. And we would allocate this money towards certain amenities, correct?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Herman, we, at least, it's staff's opinion that we are in some need of additional baseball amenities, right? Softball fields, baseball fields, and for the youth primarily. And so certainly we could accelerate a project, but ultimately, I would tell you that my thoughts would be that we would finish the Parks Master Plan, that we would begin to assess the types of amenities that they'd be asking for at Hooper Park particularly, or around Paul Mason Sportsplex, and then we would put together a plan based on the feedback that we've gotten. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Jeff, go ahead.
So Larry, my understanding is we're possibly looking at 4 different things that the voters would vote on, am I correct? And are each of these bullets one of the 4?
It's very likely that each of these bullets would be its own individual question. That is part of the discussion that, based on the feedback we get tonight from Mayor and Council, going back to our financial advisors and our bond counsel to talk strategically about how we craft these questions. But I would say, practically speaking, it will at least be a minimum of 4 questions.
Right, so one question I have, Larry, is I would rank some of these as nice to have, and then can you flip it to the next page?
Yes, sir.
I would rank Truckle Road and McCartney as necessities.
Okay.
Could we possibly run the risk of getting nice to have things voted yes and have to hold off on McCartney Road and Truckle, which I think are essential because of the potential for accidents out at the high school area there?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lavender, the point is well taken. What I would say is that as part of the evaluation, based on the final list that the direction we get this evening, we will likely break these down into questions. But there is always a potential that unless you ask one question for all of the projects,
Right.
which we unlikely would do, that there will be some projects that get supported by the community while the need, and we feel that the need may be greater than others where those may fail. You know, ultimately, the point about the work that needs to be done around Treckle and McCartney is well taken. From a staff perspective, if we did not get additional funding through a general obligation bond, we would be looking at other financing mechanisms to try to accelerate that. That's what this recommendation does, is it accelerates some level of development and improvements in that area.
And I'd also say, because I know the chief's sitting back there, the fire stations 501 and 502 are critical as well, given some of the concerns that were presented to us at an earlier meeting.
Donna, did you have a question?
Well, just to kind of piggyback on what Jeff said, I think that, having been around for the last one, a lot of people, were like, it's been 12 years before we got our community center. And
Right.
so the priority, and obviously the police department was a priority, and then the library. So I think in the scheme of things, when we look at this, to make sure that the public understands the timeline and priority where these can happen, like Matt said, it's not gonna happen all at once, but the priority basis, as Jeff said, I think that's what we're gonna have to really be clear about.
Mr. Powell, you had one more comment.
Did you have
Lisa.
one?
Go ahead, Lisa.
Go ahead.
And I'm going to follow up on what you both talked about. It seems like one of the biggest issues right now, when you talk to community members, are the roads, traffic. And so I agree. I think those are critical. And I'm just curious, is that enough? There's never enough. I look at Larry, it's like, yeah, right. But, do we need, is there any way we, increase that amount to get to the levels that are needed? I mean, we have tremendous growth, and that is literally the number one issue when I talk to people is traffic, roads, and what are we doing about it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Fitzgibbons, I certainly understand that, and I think just to give a little bit of perspective, in the non-geo bond bucket, if you will, where we're looking at other financing sources, other bonding sources, that bucket is 200 million, 300 million for some of these additional improvements that I know our community is going to expect in the very near term. We typically have not funded roadway improvements out of GEO bonds in the past, but I felt like it was an avenue to accelerate getting some of these key corridors established.
Okay.
But the most important point that I want to make is that there could be a scenario where many of these projects cannot be completed with the capacity that we're asking for in these GEO bonds. In those cases, we would use items such as development impact fees and other construction sales tax and other revenue sources that we would have within our city coffers to offset that variance.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Bell?
Larry, I think one of the best solutions for the traffic and the growth and all of those things was to push Treckle Road all the way to Val Vista and get it done. And some of those developers along through there had said they would contribute to it, because until it's there, they really aren't going to be able to take advantage of it. But if that would really be a big, make everybody in town happy instead of having to go to Pinnell or Treckle or whatever. I mean, Treckle, you could go right on up, straight.
Right. Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Powell, staff has been engaged with the developers in that area about the potential of expanding that roadway. There are a couple of what I consider to be cutout parcels that we have some challenges with, but I do envision that that segment of roadway from specifically from McCartney to Val Vista is something that we will see within the next 5 years, hopefully before that. Again, it's working with the development community to ensure that we've got the right-of-way and then developing a financing plan behind that. That is a project that we ultimately could add to this if that would be the pleasure of the mayor and council. It was not one that I felt like we had advanced enough within the study or had enough information from the development community to add. But agree with you wholeheartedly about that segment of the roadway.
Thank you, Larry.
All right, so Larry, and what you're looking for then is just really some direction from council in terms of these, and
These projects, yes.
to Mr. Powell's point, you could add 2 options on that Treckle Road improvement, which would be to take it all the way to Val Vista.
Right. Okay.
Is everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Any other, I think these look pretty good. I think they're pretty well thought out, and obviously there's not a lot of detail, but that's not what we're looking for here.
Right.
It's just because now then we can put together the funding packages, and then that we can see what that impacts in terms of taxes. Okay.
We'll begin to do our work on it then, Mr. Mayor, and schedule a future study session to disseminate that information. But ultimately, what I'm hearing is that the council's somewhat supportive of, or is supportive of, at least pursuing the potential of a November 2022 GEO bond election of some sort.
I think so. Yeah, I think we're all nodding, so,
Perfect.
okay.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. Now, I think we have a presentation from the Youth Commission. Are you guys out there? Can anybody hear me? Does anybody want to give them a nod to come in?
Come on down.
All right, that 30-minute presentation now has been carved to 20.
Sorry,
Take
Anthony.
all the time you want. Should we get chairs real quick, Larry? Or we normally do? Or should we?
Grab those ones in the front there and pull them up.
Are we going down there?
Or we can,
No, I think we can go right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they can stay down there.
Have them face this, yeah.
Yeah.
Cute at that age, aren't they?
He's kidding.
yeah, Anthony,
Some of
sit
them,
right in
yeah.
front of that podium.
That's true, not all.
Oh, okay. They're going to present the colors?
I believe so.
Very good.
Okay. Did they bring their own? Or are they gonna use ours?
I need to stand up to see him. You said you didn't see me, so is that where we put our chairs up so I can see it?
Okay. Okay, are you guys ready? Are you all ready? Are you ready for this?
So first, we would like to start off by saying that the commission is very proud of our latest achievement, which is the Community Service Award from the Chamber of Commerce for 2021. We would like to thank Councilwoman McBride for nominating our organization, and we are very glad for this recognition of all of our hard work on the commission.
Absolutely.
And we would next like to discuss one of our headline accomplishments that we have made in the past year and one of our upcoming projects, such as one of our main projects, the Heart of Casa Grande Scholarship Contest.
Hold on, let's do the introduction real quick.
Oh, yeah. We've had no instructions.
Absolutely correct, Anthony.
I am Kendra Bray, advisor for the Youth Commission.
I'm Mila Lopez, a commissioner.
I'm Emma Anila, also a commissioner.
I'm Alexis O'Neill, and I'm also a commissioner.
Can you guys tell me what school?
Go back.
Remember, we practiced this on Saturday. Name, school, year.
I'm Mila Lopez again. I'm a freshman at Union, and this is my first year on the commission.
Hey.
I'm Emma Anila. I'm a commissioner. I'm a freshman as well and go to Casa Grande Union High School.
I'm Alexis O'Neill. I am a sophomore at Casa Grande Union High School, and this is my first year as a commissioner.
My name is Elle Wiles. I'm a freshman at Union High School, and I'm the public relations officer.
My name is Delaney Dickey. I am a senior at Vista Grande High School, and I am the current president.
I'm Anthony Amato. I'm also with Delaney in the loud minority over here. I go to Vista. I'm a freshman, and I am the secretary for the commission.
I am Gracie Anila. I'm the vice president, and I'm a sophomore at Union, and I'm the vice president.
Hi, my name's Mia. I'm a senior at Casa Grande Union High School, along with the treasurer of the commission.
Hi, I'm Alora. I go to Casa Grande Union, and this is my 4th year on the commission as a senior.
My name is Phineas Lenahan. I'm in 8th grade, and I go to Legacy, and I'm a commissioner, and this is my first year on the youth commission.
I'm Landon Molia. I am a freshman at Union High School, and this is my 2nd year on the commission.
Hello, my name is T-Ray Lewis. I'm a junior at Casa Grande Union High School, and this is my 2nd year on the commission.
I am Crystal Villegas, and I'm another adult advisor.
So like Anthony was talking about, this year we are looking forward to doing our 2nd year of Heart of Casa Grande Scholarship, similar to last year where we did the scholarship based on the applicants finding their place in Casa Grande that they think embodies the spirit of Casa Grande. We are sticking with the similar prompt this year. We are continuing to do our 3 separate categories, video, art, and essay. We are hoping to have that publicized in these upcoming weeks. The sooner the better, as anything. Along with this project, we are hoping to release videos that have been made by our commissioners that say different parts of Casa Grande that they think embodies Casa Grande. They're split up into different categories, which we edited together to hopefully be released to these schools. How that's done, we're still thinking and working out the kinks, but other than that, that is what we're working on for now in regards to Heart of Casa Grande. The amount of the scholarship this year is $500 for each of the 3 categories.
Very nice.
We weren't going to ask the council members what year in high school they were? No? Okay. I think next we have Gracie just talking about our shred days that we do biannually.
We had our first fall day of shredding in October this year, and we raised over $1,700 with that. It's one of our more known events, and our next for the spring day of shredding, we're hoping for April 30th for the next shred day.
And then we have Mia Jackson with our
Garden of Sunshine. So we've always done a Garden of Sunshine every year, and this year we're working on a sign being made to go in front of it, and yeah.
And as always, I am once again here to remind you about our upcoming Hallmark event, the Arizona Youth Government Summit, which we will be hosting here in Casa Grande at the Rec Center on April 23rd of this year. It snuck up on us very quickly. We are making lots of headway in that planning, though. As far as outreach goes, we have been contacting multiple offices for speakers. We're glad to have many local officials speaking, one of them being, of course, Councilman McBride. And the mayor, Mr. Mayor. Of course, if there's anybody here with particular contacts, particularly those who he may call on a first-name basis, I'm not talking to the mayor here, who may be able to connect us with certain senators for our keynote speaker, we are totally not asking that you use your connections to help us there, but we may be asking that. As far as the finances of the event go, we are very happy and appreciative to be getting multiple sponsorships and donations from individuals and organizations as well as businesses throughout the community. And again, we are definitely not shamelessly asking for anybody in this room who may be able to offer their kind hearts and wallets to the Arizona Youth Government Summit. Again, those checks can be made out to the Casa Grande Youth Commission. We are very excited to be bringing youth commissions, councils, and boards from all across the state to our great city to showcase not only our city, but our commission, which has been a main player on the stage of youth empowerment for the past nearly 20 years now. Not to date it, but we are very glad to be having this event here and extremely hopeful for it, and we know that we will be able to bring this great event to our city with the support of the mayor and council. Do you have anything to say on that? I would also like to give much credit to Delaney, who has been planning this. Does anyone else have anything to say? And I will give the mic to our president to conclude.
Well, we are also going to move forward with trying to get some ad hoc positions on some of the commissions, which I think you've seen some of that communication going out. So we'll be reaching out to you all for some suggestions potentially on that. Mr. Lavender?
You know, I just wanted to say to all of you, it is, for especially the union students, it's horrible you couldn't go to school today. And all of you are student leaders, and I suggest tomorrow morning you knock on your principal's door and ask him how you can help with things that are going on at the school, how you can lead, get dialogue going to get this resolved so all of you can stay in school and be safe at school. You're an impressive group of students. I commend you for what you're doing, and I think you're part of the solution out there. So I encourage you to get involved.
Yeah, go ahead.
And yeah, it's been a tough year and a half, 2 years, and I know, all of you, it's just so nice to see your motivation and drive and energy to keep on with your leadership, role in the community. So we really appreciate it. And I know sometimes it must get frustrating, when you see some of your fellow, students, friends that don't have the energy. But I just really appreciate, with how busy all of you are and committed to school and everything, to take on this leadership role. It's really important, and it means so much to our community. And I know so many of you do so many other things, and so to continue and serve on this council is very important to us, and we appreciate it, we take it serious, and we listen to,
what you have to say.
Yeah, what you have to say. We have to, right? With that one over there, No, seriously. Thank you. Everything you do.
Mr. Powell?
My turn. You the man. I just want to say we're so proud to have this group. This started off a number of years ago with just a small group of people, and our community is blessed to have you people that are taking ownership in making decisions and representing the schools and the city. And I just want to tell you that you're all going up. And I know one of your dads are sitting out there. I can see him right now. But Byron. And I just want to congratulate every one of you for being part of this, and keep it up. Keep it up. Just as you go upward, just take more responsibility all the time and show them how it's done.
Donna?
You know, I think when this started many years ago, as Anthony said, not that it ages me, but one of the things that we really were looking at is we want young people to come back and stay in our community. And I think Kenda and Crystal are a prime example. Both of them were on the Youth Commission as students when I started this. And it's amazing to me to see them as advisors. And that's what this is all about. And so it's something that you will 5, 10, 15 years from now hopefully come back and continue. This is leadership at its best, and it's only as good as what you make it. And as Mr. Lavender said, quite frankly, a lot of us were sickened by what happened Friday and the fact that you were not in school today. But that's what sets you aside from the others, and you're going to need to walk back in there with your head high. And the few that were disruptive, don't let that stop you. Let that be a challenge to you.
Matt?
So, yeah, I get the opportunity to work very closely with them, and I want to say this group this year has been especially resilient. They've been through a lot in the last 2 years as students, as young people, with Zoom meetings, non-Zoom meetings, this and that, cancellations, and here they are. And this year they really started focusing on more being towards the government function of what they do, along with some community service. But the Youth Government Summit is for youth commissions around the state, including tribal nations surrounding us, and they've all been invited, and we hope that they all are able to come. Also, Crystal and Kendra have been volunteer advisors for the past almost 10 years now, and they're doing a great job. And they informed us the other day that they're going to hang up their advisor hats. So if anyone else would like to be a volunteer advisor for the Youth Commission, we are accepting applications. Not to replace them, but just to follow in their footsteps. And we have a couple in mind that we're working with, but I just wanted to definitely recognize those two because they give up their Saturdays, their nights, their weekends, and they both have young kids of their own, but they just really love helping the community, and it started from them being on the commission. Another great thing I see, we have a great mix of all sorts of people from different schools, from 8th grade all the way up to seniors, so we're pretty happy. Like Mr. Mowgli there started as an 8th grader, he's in his 2nd year now. Got another 8th grader, and I want to I'm not going to embarrass her, but put her on the spot a bit with Miss Laura Linehan. Shared something with me about one of her college applications. Maybe you could tell us about what happened when you put the Youth Commission on that application.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but it's a great story.
You're fine. I was talking to my interviewer and
Close.
I was talking to my interviewer and they said that being involved in like youth government and the Youth Commission really put my application over the spot, so I got accepted into the college.
Excellent.
And it's a pretty cool college too, so, I mean, cooler than ASU even, so. Say something else. Out of state, it's out of state, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, do you want to tell him, Laura, or can you tell him?
Cornell,
Yeah.
very nice.
Not too shabby.
No.
But it just goes to show that you guys putting effort out, you get back for it, not for yourself, but for the community. And again, like Miss Donna said, we always encourage you to come back, as you know, to Casa Grande, because we're building all these great jobs and parks and trails, so that'll be even better when you come back. And you guys are a big part of that. The Youth Commission, in fact, one of the big reasons we have a community recreation center after all that time. So when you guys, before you guys, a lot of you were even born, but we started way back then.
Well, and just to finally say, I think, we are super proud, which has been said several times up here, super proud of all of you. I would encourage you to continue in leadership. It's needed today more than ever, and I think that you embody that leadership and that drive. So I would encourage you to continue, no matter where you go, what you do. But again, to Matt's and Donna's point, please come back.
One more,
Oh,
if I may.
sure,
The-
of course I say no.
What they've been doing a lot to some conversation we had is we have already had a plan to meet with the superintendent at one of our meetings from the high school district. Unfortunately, it hadn't worked out because of COVID and stuff so far, but they do have a plan to meet with her at the meeting. And also, we were talking about more activity participating with the school board, because we've talked a lot about government functions and how the school board does that, city council does this. So I know there's a lot in the works for that, and no more timely than, just right now.
Later, that young man's going to be on TV.
Yeah. Also, Anthony alluded to earlier, but they are trying to get a hold of, they've got a hold of his office, but Senator Mark Kelly to speak at their event. And so we've had a few connections, and I mentioned that sometimes the mayor gets to talk to him on the phone, so he's going to shamelessly ask him again.
I'll ask both senators, how's that?
They'll take one or both.
Okay,
And again, this is all a student-driven conference.
Right.
They're asking for help from people, but they are planning, they're inviting people, and they are doing it themselves. So we are very excited. And also need to mention our staff advisor, Jeff Molnar from the Community Services Department, who helps us a lot too. So, and Mr. Hardesty, you heard about the sign that we're working on. See, maybe
Great.
we just gotta put it out there in public. He does know. He's been a lot of help on it. I'm just giving him a hard time.
We also, as a commission, want to thank Mr. Matt Herman for help with all the time and the commitment that is dedicated to the commission. We are a rowdy bunch of kids, and we are demanding. And so it's definitely a task for everybody, Mr. Herman, Kendra, and Crystal. So we just want to thank all 3 of our great advisors for being able to put up with us and all of our ambitious ideas.
Are any of you going to U of A?
I see a bunch of no.
Even if they did, they probably wouldn't tell me.
All right.
We just encourage them to go anywhere and further their education.
All right, well, great, thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you
Great
guys
job.
so much.
Great job.
That was refreshing.
Love the shirts too, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are great. It says Youth Commission.
Lead
on
it, I like it. Well done.
The it. That's what you
Yes.
said the other day.
It's all about the it. All right, the study session is ended, and we will reconvene at 5 minutes after 7. So
of the FFA kids, Cowboys, called the black kid the
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. Apologize, we're starting about 5 minutes late, but welcome to everybody. Please get a seat.
So,
All right, so we'll call the meeting to order. And first item on the agenda is our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance, which we will do in back-to-back. But first of all, tonight we have Pastor Juan to lead us in our invocation. Thank you, Pastor, for being here. And then please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
We have somebody that's going to do it. You are. I know that, but
Good evening to everybody. Let's take a moment and bow our heads and get focused. Father, we come to you tonight thanking you for your faithfulness to this city and to our leaders. We ask that your Spirit continue to lead and guide us through the difficult times ahead. You have been faithful to our city and to our leaders down through the years, Father. You have blessed us and kept us time after time after time. You have blessed this city in so many ways that all we can do tonight is just say thank you, Lord. And so as we come, we want to continue to seek your wisdom and discernment for our mayor, for the city council, for all of our leaders, for the young, for the old, for our business leaders, yes, for families, the grandparents, parents, and even children. Lord, touch us now with your wisdom and discernment. Help us move past, Father, these things that we find ourselves in, these situations, COVID and health issues. Father, help lift us up tonight, Father. Draw us close to you. And as we come, Father, I pray, Father, that you will bless all areas of our city, but especially, Father, after tonight, bless our youth, Father. Bless our schools, bless the teachers, the students, their families, Lord. Bless our leaders in the school, Lord. I even come lifting up our supervisors to you, Lord, and their staff, Father. Touch them as they lead the next generation, Father, into the new millennium. Lord, I pray, Father, that as we come, that we will always ask you to unite us, Father, as one. Father, unite our communities, unite our neighborhoods and our individuals here, Father. Unite us with one purpose, Lord, and that is to love one another as you have loved us. Bring us together as one, Father, and instill your fire from on high in each one of our leaders now. And we will be so ready and able to say, thank you, Lord. And we ask this now in your precious Son, Jesus' name, knowing and believing that if we pray, believe, and have no doubt, then what we pray for, according to your word in Mark 11, 22, 23, and 24, Jesus told his disciples, have faith in God, for if you do, you can tell the mountains to be cast into the sea. If you pray, believe, and have no doubt, then, Lord, your word tells us it shall be done. So, Father, this thing is done, is done, is done. And according to your word, the blessings are coming, coming, coming. In Jesus' name we pray. Yes, in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And
Amen.
Thank you, Jesus.
please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Powell.
Oh, you bet.
Thank you, Pastor Juan. All right, next item on our agenda is item C, the minutes.
Okay, I didn't know, you did the roll call already, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. Thank you, Mr. Powell. Thanks for checking on me. Yeah, we do have one missing, Mr. Huddleston tonight. He is struggling through some issues, so I'd like to see if we could excuse him. If someone would make that motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to excuse Mr. Huddleston. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, please note Bob's not here, but he is excused.
So noted.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Powell, now you can go.
Okay, regarding the minutes, the first one is the approval of the city council regular meeting minutes of January 18th, 2022. And the ones that follow are, we're going to accept the Planning and Zoning Commission minutes from December 2nd, 2021, we accept for the record. The Casa Grande Police Personnel Retirement Board minutes from December 6th, we keep for the, consider the acceptance of the Park and Recreation Advisory Board minutes from September 16th, 21, we accept those. And the, consider exception of the, acceptance of the Casa Grande Charter Committee minutes from January 13th, 2022. And finally, we had quite a few, consider the acceptance of the Arts and Humanities Commission minutes from January 4th, 2022. And that would be it, Mayor.
All right, thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Powell.
I
So-
move approval of those.
All right, I have a motion and I have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. Next is claims against the city, item D.
Mayor McFarland, I move to accept and pay the claims dated January 12th through February 1st, 2022, as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, claims are approved. Meeting agenda approval. Any changes? Anyone have anything you want? Anything changes from staff? All right,
Mayor McFarland, I move to approve the meeting agenda as it's presented.
Second.
all right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved as presented. We do have a special presentation tonight, unfortunately. Shouldn't say that. I say that with sadness in my heart. Reggie, where are you?
He's sure been a good one.
So first of all, let me introduce to those who don't know him. This is our Deputy Chief, Reggie Winston. And I say unfortunately, he's probably ready to jump for joy, but Reggie's retiring. He's leaving the force, and not necessarily because he wants to, or maybe you do. If it seems like we've had a lot of retiring police officers lately, it's true, we have. And, because we've had a lot of them who've been around a while. And so, that being said, we're super appreciative of everything that Reggie's done. And just let me read a little bit of some of his accolades. Reggie, we honor the Casa Grande Police Department and Deputy Chief Reggie Winston, who's retiring after more than 25 years of service. Reggie started his service with the department in August of 1996 as a patrol officer. He served a number of years as detective and was promoted to police sergeant in 2007, and then to police captain in 2014. The position was reclassified and renamed to deputy police chief in 2017. Reggie is also a graduate of the National FBI Academy, but perhaps even more impressive than his 25 years of service with the city, Reggie also has more years than that in combined military service. He served in the Marine Corps from 1983 to 1996. He then joined the Army National Guard in 2004, retiring at the rank of major in 2016. That service included several active duty deployments. That's a remarkable history of dedicated public service, I must say. And on behalf of my fellow council members, myself, and the city of Casa Grande, thank you for your service, Reggie. Thank you. Really from all of us, and the best wishes in the future.
All right.
No one ever does. I love it.
Good.
Getting the last word in.
Mayor and council, first of all, thank you and allow me this opportunity this evening. First, I want to thank Mayor and council and your predecessors for the support you have provided me and the police department over the past 25 years. Influence and support from past and present city managers, the challenge that Mr. Thompson gave to all city employees in reference to obtaining an education to be a leader in the city, and Mr. Raines supporting that, led me to taking that challenge and advice that put me in the position I'm in today. Chief McCrory, I want to thank you for the leadership and mentorship you've shared with me over the past years and direction you have taken our organization in that same time frame. I'm looking forward to continuing to serve next to you and with the future leadership of our organization as a reserve police officer. To my fellow officers, thank you for some of the most wonderful and most memorable years. After serving with each of you over the course of my career, I am proud to call you family. And you never really leave family. The family atmosphere of the Casa Grande Police Department is our main reason for continuing as a reserve officer. I will not be there full time, but I will be around to support and give back to the department that has given so much to me. Thank you.
Mayor, can we share some comments for him from the... You weren't going to get away that easy. I just want to say, somebody that's been here 25 years, especially with police work, I started 25 years ago, so we've started off young and we're still going, huh?
Yes, sir, we are.
You're up to what now in the military?
I retired as a major.
Okay, a major.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's really good. And 25 years worth of effort. We've seen all kind of things happen in the last 25 years. I know that, and you've had a hand at really helping smooth out a lot of situations that might not have been that way except for you. So I compliment you and thank you, and don't be a stranger.
Thank you, Councilman.
And we're going to remember your family. You're not leaving, so we're going to watch for you.
I always like to share the stories. Many years ago, before I was on council or anything in my business, we had an incident with a stolen vehicle. And I remember this young cop coming up and taking the report, taking it seriously, and I was so impressed by his demeanor. And then years later, I come to find out, I knew him, and then I finally got to meet him as a council member, and it was Reggie Winston. And I still remember to this day just how impressed I was by his professionalism and contact and everything to this day, and so I'm proud that you served our city, and proud to call you a friend too.
Thank you, Councilman.
And family. Don't
Thank
forget
you.
that, you said it.
Yeah. Reggie, you know how I feel. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service. You know, in all the dealings I had with you, you were always professional. You represented the department with class, humility, and so I thank you and look forward to you serving in the future.
Thank you, Councilman.
I know. Brought a tear to my eye.
Yeah.
I know.
Don't be a stranger, Reggie.
Said something about working every council meeting.
Good. Love to have them.
Yeah.
All right, next on our agenda is is G, our consent agenda items. So all items listed with an asterisk are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion and one roll call vote of the council. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or member of the public so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence of the agenda. Is there anyone on council who wants to remove something from the consent agenda?
No.
Anybody from the public?
Go ahead.
Okay, seeing none, then I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
All right, I have a motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Powell.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right. Next is our public comments, and this is a point in the meeting when I'll open the floor and allow anyone here tonight to speak to council, but just as a reminder, please keep your comments to 3 minutes. We do have a timer. And also realize that because it's not an agendized item, we can't have a discussion, but we can direct staff to follow up and get back with you if there's something that needs to be followed up on. So, that being said, I do have one request sheet since they bothered to fill it out. I'm going to pick on them first. And is Walter here?
There he is.
Walter, you want to come up and your opportunity. Please state your name and your address for the records.
Walter J. Tuckey, 10693 North Arapahoe Drive, Casa Grande, 85122. I do not know my DNA number.
That's okay.
The reason I'm here tonight, I attended the car show, and I've also attended the community senior center. I've used the dog park. I've used the recreation center on Pert. And everything that this little city does is really good. And I commend Holly, whoever she is. She did a fantastic job at the car show.
She was just here.
She left. Yeah.
Well, you got to tell her that.
We'll let her know.
She did a fantastic job. The only thing I'd ask is that she be in charge of the same thing at a chili bake-off. It'd be good for the city. But the city is well-run. I've got no complaints. I feel safe here, and I'll be glad when the Aldi's gets built. But other than that, I really love it here. I've been here a year. I'm a Republican, folks. So don't worry, I'm not trying to change anything. But I like everything about this city. So you guys are doing a good job with everything.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Wow. Thank you, Walter. It's not often we get thanks when we sit up here, but it is appreciated. All right. Is there anyone else here tonight who would like to address the council? Here you go. Please state your name and your address for the records, please.
Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Davis Fox, and I don't have the privilege of being a local resident, so I'm starting off at a loss, and I apologize for that. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, thank you for allowing me to join you this evening. As I stated, my name is Davis Fox with the Grand Canyon Council Boy Scouts of America. I'm here tonight to share with you some of the impactful ways that Scouting seeks to serve our local young people. In the past few years, Scouting has had dramatic changes to ensure we are relevant and current for the needs of today's families and communities. One of the most noteworthy changes that Scouting has had take place is that we now welcome young ladies into our program at every age level. While the Scouting program still offers single-gender programming for our youth, we find it important to provide opportunities for families that have or young men and women to have the same program and something that they can participate in as a group. Many times people look at scouting and think that our mission is to raise the next generation of wood smoke smelling Americans. And while we use the outdoors as the learning space and environment where we can serve our youth, that isn't actually our mission. Our goal is to teach young people to be leaders of character and to have them take these skills forward in their lives. In our city, in your city, we have 3 Boy Scout troops and Cub Scout packs at this time. 1 Cub Scout pack, 2 troops. And these groups take great pride in participating with civic engagement. Our Cub Scouts participate with keeping Casa Grande clean and beautiful and trail cleanups during their outings. They've participated with the street fair and the car show. Our Scout troops participate with canned food drives, as well as working with Feed My Starving Children and Seeds of Hope. We are so proud to give back and to serve the community around us. One of the ways that we serve the communities and how we make sure that we stay relevant is by working with community partners and local agencies to ensure that the delivery method that we have here matches the needs of the local community. At this time, with only 3 Scout units total, we are not doing enough to serve our local community. We need more opportunities and more avenues to invite young people into Scouting so we can teach these transformative skills and experiences. Tonight, I'm here to ask for your assistance. I'm seeking an opportunity to meet with more community partners, more agencies, and more organizations that are interested in the development of young people so that we can teach leadership, take advantage of those beautiful parks and trails that were discussed, and ensure that there are appropriate leaders for tomorrow's economy in Casa Grande. Sadly, one of our Scout troops and our Cub Scout pack are seeking a new community partner for their regular home. After more than 45 years with the current partner, changes within their organization have left these Scouts almost as orphans, and so the time to find new community partners is desperately critical now. We'd like more community partners to serve more Scouts in the future, but we'd like your help tonight for the Scouts we have. Thank you.
Would you do me a favor and make sure if you have a card, you can leave it with Mr. Raines?
Yes, sir, I will.
And then I'll get that information from Larry.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That's the local leaders, Jennifer. Jennifer, wave your hand. She's the local Cub Scout leader.
Scout leader? Nice to meet you. All right, so anyone else here tonight? Okay, seeing none, then I will close the floor to public comments, and we'll move on to item I, which is our award of contracts. That's you, Mr. Hardesty.
Yes, I think I'm first on the docket. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Staff is recommending the Mayor and City Council approve the purchase of a Toro irrigation control system for Dave White Golf Course from the Simpson Norton Corporation located in Goodyear, Arizona, at a price of $148,161.42. Staff recommends an additional budget authority of $15,000 for city-controlled contingency for additional equipment that may be needed during the retrofit installation. Our irrigation system at the golf course pumps affluent water and consists of 2 pump stations, several miles of pipe and wire, over 1,000 sprinkler heads, 26 satellite controllers, 1 weather station, and 1 central controller. We've been evaluating the system over the last year and a half. Most of the system's in very good shape, except for the central control system and the satellite controllers. They are now obsolete and no longer functioning properly. Because of this issue, the turf is not being watered correctly. It's not very efficient. There's places that are too wet, places that are too dry. We should be able to control this system remotely, and we're basically running it manually. We have hired a consultant. We've been doing this project in phases. We have a consultant, Coates Irrigation, who's been hired by the city in a competitive process, and they have been assisting us in the design and the recommendations that we're bringing to you tonight. We're recommending purchasing this Toro system using a cooperative purchasing agreement through the Omnia Partners NIPA. Coates Irrigation Consultants did review the attached proposal and recommended this purchase, or approved this purchase, this recommendation for this Toro irrigation equipment. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
How much?
$148,161.42, plus additional contingency of $15,000 for unforeseen things as we're replacing them.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
And just one reminder, this is just the central control system and the satellite controllers. The pipes in the ground and everything else are in pretty good shape. We will review this for next year for additional pump station work, because the pump stations would be the next phase that we work on.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Mr. Chairman, do you have a?
I'm good.
Okay. Anybody else?
He answered it.
All right, seeing no other questions then, I'll call for a resolution, please. Go ahead.
Resolution number 5379, a resolution of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting a proposal from Simpson Norton Corporation for the purchase of a Toro irrigation control system, authorizing expenditure of public funds and authorizing execution of a contract with or purchase order to Simpson Norton Corporation.
Mayor McFarland, I move approval of resolution number 5379 as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Powell.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next is item I2. And I think that goes to you, Kevin?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Staff recommends that the mayor and city council authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Smithco Enterprises Incorporated, and this is for the landfill drainage improvements Phase 2 and 3. And this is an amount not to exceed $622,350. It should also be noted that there is a 20% contingency of $103,725 associated with this, and that's to give us the flexibility to deal with some of the unknowns as we go through this construction process. Obviously, we're doing excavation in a landfill, and we just never know what we're going to find or what we're going to have to deal with when we go through this process. The objective of this process is to provide the drainage of the stormwater that is collected on the active cell, which is currently our west cell. The useful life that's remaining in that west cell is estimated to go through 2028 of this year. The Phase 1, which was completed in 2018, included the drainage pipes that go underneath the canal to our retention basins and some of the dry well work that we had to do. Phase 2 and Phase 3 will consist of providing the, find my notes here, sorry, construction of the perimeter channel, which will collect all of the stormwater and direct it to our various basins, the Gabion down drain, which is required, as well as the existing retention basin, the conveyance to that. We did do a public bid for this, and we received 4 contractors that submitted bids, and we did evaluate those bids and determined that Smithco was the lowest responsible and responsive bidder. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions? All right, seeing none, then I'll call for resolution number, please. Go ahead.
Resolution number 5380, a resolution of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, accepting a bid from Smithco Enterprises, Inc. for the city of Casa Grande landfill drainage improvements project Phase 2 and 3, authorizing expenditure of public funds, and authorizing execution of a contract with or purchase order to Smithco Enterprises, Inc.
Mayor, I move approval of resolution number 5380 as presented.
Second?
All right, have a motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Powell.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, we have no boards and commission reports and no ordinance resolutions, item K. So we'll move to item L, which is the public meeting and public hearings. First item on the docket tonight is item L1, hearing and consideration approval of ordinance number 1397.17.55. And this is Planning and Development Department. You're just missing one.
Yeah, three's enough for this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
So thank you very much. This next item is a amendment to our zoning code. Although it's a fairly simple text amendment that I'll describe to you in just a moment, I want to let you know that it has the potential to have significant positive impacts upon the appearance and character of some of our newer developing residential neighborhoods, especially those that are zoned R2, R1A, and R1. So the graphic on the screen shows you the existing front yard setback for every one of our residential zone districts other than our PADs, and it's essentially 20-foot front yard setback. In our PAD zones, we do allow a variation typically from that 20-foot front yard setback to allow certain portions of homes to be brought forward to a 15-foot setback. Actually, in the PAD, sometimes it's even closer than that, but typically it's 15 feet. And the portions of the homes that are allowed to be moved forward from the 20 feet are really the areas that are not garage doors. They could be front porches, they could be elevations of living area, they could be the kind of the side elevation of a side-load garage. In every case, we always require at least a 20-foot setback for the front garage doors to make sure that we have adequate room for a car to be parked in the driveway without extending across the public sidewalk. So that's what this simple text amendment does. It simply allows for our standard residential zones to take advantage of a 15-foot front yard setback for certain portions of the homes to allow more variation in the streetscape. And I'm going to give you some examples of what a streetscape looks like with the standard 20-foot setback and what the streetscape looks like when you allow some articulation of those various architectural elements of the home. So this is what a 20-foot standard setback looks like. You can see every one of the homes essentially set back at the same distance from the front property line. You get a uniform look, but it doesn't articulate at all. And when you drive down the road, what you'd see in this is that the garage doors are kind of the dominant architectural feature in the streetscape. Again, this is the look of the 20 feet. Now, this one's a little bit different because there's more articulation because portions of the home have been set back. The garage doors in this case are all still at 20 feet. And so it's still, the garages are still really the dominant feature, as you can see in the bottom picture of the streetscape. This is an example of what happens when you start allowing some of the portions of the home that are not the front garage doors to be brought forward. And you get some articulation for side load garages for the side elevation, for the front porches, or for simply the living area, portions of the living area of the home, you can see how the articulation is definitely different than what you might have when there's a standard 20-foot setback. The street, if you look at the street view, you can see that the garage doors really aren't as prominent as they might be if you required a standard 20-foot setback for all portions of the home. So that summarizes my presentation. It's a fairly simple modification of the zoning code with regards to the front yard setback for certain portions of homes. The change would apply to all residential zone districts for single-family homes, other than the PAD, which already allows some flexibility. So I'd be happy to answer any questions the council might have.
Anyone?
I like this, Paul, because as you said, it can't be the garage that's 15 foot. It has to be some other feature of the home. And a lot of people, residents that I've talked to, the concern is that we're getting these cookie cutter look neighborhoods, and this is a great way at little to no cost that they can make it articulate a lot different, and it won't look so cookie cutter like. So thanks for bringing that to us.
Thank you. Exactly.
Yeah, Lisa?
So, yeah, no, I agree. I do like the look. Are the builders, is this a product that they're, I mean, is that's the trend? They're good with this? Is that one of the reasons you brought this forward as well? Because this is what the builders are recommending also?
Yes, some of the builders did approach us about allowing this 15-foot front yard setback within our standard residential zones as well as within our PADs. And so, as I looked at that, I realized they were correct, that we should be allowing this kind of design flexibility, if you will, within our standard zones, just to improve the appearance of some of our newer neighborhoods. Now, we do have some builders in the audience who may or may not want to speak at the public hearing and to see if they actually support it or not.
Oh, no, and I appreciate the visual, because of course, when you're reading it, you're like, okay, trying to envision what it looks like. So no, I really appreciate the pictures and the visual.
What are we looking at on zoning on here?
You would be looking at, this would apply to every residential zone other than PAD, because PAD already allows it. So you'd be looking at R2, R1A, R1, Urban Ranch. Every residential zone district that allows single-family homes would be able to take advantage of this design flexibility if they so wished.
I'm looking at this on the R1 zone. The minimum yard setback from the property line is 3 foot. That's between the mayor and I.
Which zone is
That's
that?
way too dense.
Mr. Powell, what zone district is that?
What?
What were you talking, what are you referring to?
I can't hear.
Which zone?
Which zone were you referring to?
This was in the R1A zone.
The R1A zone, the existing side yard setbacks, which aren't being modified by this whatsoever, are minimum 3 foot on one side and 10 on the other. 3 and 10 is the existing side yard setbacks for R1A. This zoning code text amendment does not address anything on side yards.
This is just front yard.
It's
No,
just
I
a
know,
front yard.
I know that, I'm just concerned about the 3 foot.
It's 3 foot and,
We get a lot of people that are looking at some of our new building, and they're concerned about the densities. And when you get 3 feet from the neighbor or the fence or whatever it is, that's dense.
Well, but we're talking about this text amendment.
But it's 3 and 10.
so, Councilman Powell, the side yard setback you're talking about, which is 3, but it's 10 on the other. So you're getting 13 feet between buildings, not 3 feet, just so you're clear. It's 3 feet and 10 feet as the side yard setback in the R1A.
They don't want to go 10 and 5.
We're not changing this.
They are changing, it's the reason we're looking at these.
No, they're not changing this. We're changing this, the
Just
front
the
yard.
text for the
The front yard, the text amendment is on the
I'm
front
talking about
yard.
side
only.
yards.
Well, We're not on side yards, this is front yard.
Well, you need to go around the corner and get on the side yards.
All right, well, that's not the subject at hand, so. Is there any comments on this text amendment that Paul's asking us for?
None.
Okay, seeing none then, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the floor for any public comments on this item L1. And again, this is on front yard setbacks. Is anybody here who would like to address the council on this subject? Okay, seeing none, then I'll close the public hearing, and I will call for an ordinance number, please, Gloria.
Ordinance number 1397.17.55. An ordinance of the council, the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending all of the setback tables of chapter 17.20 residential zones of the city of Casa Grande Municipal Code to update the minimum setbacks for all of the city's residential zone districts, establishing the severability of the various sections of the ordinance, and establishing an effective date.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 1397.17.55 as presented.
Second.
All right, have a motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Powell.
Not happily.
Is that a no?
That's a no.
Okay.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next item is L2, another public hearing. This is on ordinance number 1178.415. Paul, your team.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council.
Hey, Joe.
RVI Planning is requesting a zone change from urban ranch to planned area development, PAD, on 63 acres of land, generally located on the northeast corner of Pinal and Val Vista. You can see it highlighted in yellow below. The proposed PAD rezoning request is intended to be a mixed-use, multifamily residential and commercial development. The proposed conceptual development plan includes 21 acres of mixed use and 42 acres of multifamily. The proposed development may include up to 25 dwelling units per acre of a variety of different housing options. You can see the conceptual plan to your right. When looking at the PAD's review criteria, we look at the following criteria. All have been covered in the staff report provided to you. We're just going to hit on a few items tonight. The first one is the relationship of the plan elements to conditions both on and off the property. The site does have 2 RV parks and some large lot single-family properties abutting it. At the current time, all the surrounding properties are located outside of city limits in the unincorporated Pinal County. The PAD does establish design standards to buffer, like with buffers, walls, and screening requirements that are appropriate for the proposed project and the surrounding properties. So all future proposed projects will require the submittal of a major site plan and be reviewed for compatibility at that time as well. So we'll look at buffer areas again at that time. The second one is the conformance to the city's general plan. So the site is located in our community corridor land use category. That category is designed to encourage increased activity along select arterial corridors and key intersections throughout the city. Among other requests, this supports the following general plan goals. They're all covered in your staff report. I just want to point out action step CC 2.1, which is encourage mixed use, commercial and retail structures to create a higher density of uses along major corridors, which is exactly what this PAD is intended to do. In conclusion, Planning Commission on a 7-0 vote recommends City Council approve the zone change request from urban ranch to planned area development. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Council have any questions? Any questions, Mr. Paul?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Again, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open the floor to any public comments or anyone from the public who would like to address council on this matter. Sure. Come forward and state your name and your address for our records, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Kyle Barkello from RVI Planning and Landscape Architecture in 120 South Ash Ave in Tempe, Arizona. I'm humbled and grateful to be here tonight on behalf of Mr. Puzis, who lives all the way in Portland, that has surprised me with his visit here tonight. He's owned this property for 36 years, and this is really a legacy property for him and his family. And through the number of months that we've worked with staff, we really feel like we have a very high quality project here and create something that promotes Casa Grande's identity by creating this major gateway into the city of a mixed-use parcel that also provides some multifamily component to it. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
I do have one. So is the plan to move forward to develop on this land then, or is it preparing it for someone else to develop?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, so the plan is preparing it for future development. Mr. Puzis is working with a land broker right now, and they're starting to make the matches and start to identify some of the users that could go here.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this matter? All right, seeing none, then I'll close the public hearing and call for an ordinance number, please, Gloria.
Ordinance number 1178.415. An ordinance of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending zoning ordinance 1178 and its subsequent amendments by changing the zoning from urban ranch to planned area development on property generally located at the northeast corner of Pinal Avenue and Val Vista Boulevard, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mayor McFarland, I move to approve ordinance number 1178.415 as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Powell.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, move on to item L3, another public hearing.
Mayor, before we move
Oh.
forward, I'm going to have to declare a conflict on this
Okay.
item, so I'm going to step off the dais just to make sure I'm not involved in any discussion.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. All right. Just a question, what, on these, is it a simple majority on these?
Mr. Mayor, all ordinances require a minimum of 4 votes of the council.
Okay,
So
four
you'll need 4 out of
affirmative.
5, not 3 out of 2 to pass any.
Four affirmative votes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All righty, let's go with item L3.
Capital Development Group is requesting a major planned area development amendment to change the Pinal Commerce Center PAD to the Park at 3 Point PAD for 26.5 acres of land generally located east of Pinal Avenue and south of Courtson Road. You can see it highlighted below. The applicant is looking to develop a build-to-rent project. The proposed project will provide approximately 225 single and duplex-style rental units at approximately 10.6 dwelling units per acre. There will be nearly 4.8 acres, or 22% of the site, designated as open space and amenities. The remainder of the PAD will allow for the same commercial uses as it has designated in the current PAD. So that's the area called out as 3 Point Business Community, and then you can see the rest of the conceptual site plan and the rental units surrounding that in the colored area. Again, we cover the following criteria. Tonight, we're just going to concentrate on one item, and that's conformance to the city's general plan. The site is located within the community corridor land use category. Again, this category is designed to encourage increased activity along select arterial corridors. This designation permits residential developments up to 25 dwelling units per acre. They're currently at 10.6. Among other items, this request supports the following general plan. They're similar to the last project we saw. So I'll point out goal CC-4, which is promote high-density residential areas or residential uses along urban corridors, which Pinal is certainly considered an urban corridor. Finally, Planning Commission, on a 6-0 vote, recommend City Council approve DSA 2100198, an amendment of the Pinal Commerce Park to the park at 3 Point PAD. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions? This is just north of the Airport Tavern, across from the car dealerships.
South of Quartson.
Yes. Yeah, car dealerships are over here.
Yep.
Okay.
Comments?
Yes, Mr. Powell?
I think this is a very good plan. It's on the airport, and the airport has not been a glamorous situation for people coming up and down Pinnell Avenue. And I think filling it up with what they're doing, they have a business community there, and they also have their homes. And they're compatible pretty much with what's on down. And so I think that's a good plan. I think we need to do that.
Any other comments or questions? Mr.
Just one comment, kind of along what Mr. Powell said is, you know, that's one of the main entryways to our community, and it's been a vacant lot since I was born, to be honest, and lived here. So I'm really glad to see a nice project going in there that'll really help, you know, be a gateway to our community.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Agreed.
All right, seeing none, then I will open the floor for public hearing on this item. Does anyone here like to address council? Please state your name and your address for the records, please.
Hi, Rochelle Stroll. I'm the owner of Capital Development Group and Capital Asset Management. I didn't know I'd have to speak behind Reggie and the Scouts, so you guys make this a bit of a daunting task tonight. Thanks so much for that. But I appreciate your comments. You will see when you dig deeper into this, if you have not, that we very much attempted to take into the history of the airport. Our partners are Casa Grande family. One of my partners rode his dirt bikes here. We're very proud of putting this together and making it something important. You'll see that our density is low, but it still makes its point. We have dog parks, we have walking areas. You will not walk your kids on the same street that you drive. We really try to take the time to create a community. We do not think of this as a multifamily situation. We think of it as a community, and I hope you feel that way. And we do appreciate the kind thoughts. We really did take some time to make this different. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Anyone?
Got a good plan.
Thank you. I
Thank
really
you.
do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else here to speak to council? All right, seeing none, then I will close the floor and I will call for an ordinance number, please, Gloria.
Ordinance number 1178.312.1. An ordinance of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, approving a major amendment to change Pinal Commerce Center planned area development to the Park at 3 Points planned area development for property generally located west of Pinal Avenue and south of Quartson Road, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mayor, I move for approval of ordinance number 1178.312.1 as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons abstaining. Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Powell.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, next item on under our public hearings is L4. This is a public hearing notice only, no actions tonight. Good night.
We're still spending money.
All right. This is the last you'll hear of me tonight, too. This request is for a public hearing for an annexation of roughly 10 acres, generally located east of Pinal and north of Val Vista. You can see it's just located just north of one of our previous presentations. In regards to the annexation evaluation and process, this area is a logical and appropriate annexation area in regards to the current boundary of City of Casa Grande. The area meets all the requirements for annexation as set forth in the ARS, or Arizona Revised Statutes. The blank petition was recorded on January 11th, and at this time, council is only being asked to conduct a public hearing on the proposed annexation. This public hearing is conducted in compliance with the ARS statute to hold the public hearing within the last 10 days of the 30-day wait period that begins when you file that blank petition. The future steps after the hearing tonight, petition signatures can be obtained from the owners of the land after the initial 30-day wait period, which will be February 10th. After signatures are collected, an annexation ordinance will be scheduled for council consideration with the first reading on March 7th, the second reading on March 22nd, and a 30-day cure period on April 21st. ARS does require that the city annexing the area adopt a zoning classification that permits densities no greater than those permitted by the county. Staff is proposing that the annexed property be initially zoned as our planned area development recreational vehicle park overlay zoning district, which is our PAD RVP zoning district, in conjunction with this annexation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any comments or questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Matt.
This is just out of curiosity, not that I'm against this or anything, but if we annex something like this, I imagine that they have some sort of septic system there, or are they on sewer?
So it is currently on septic
How
system.
do we address that? Yeah.
It's currently on septic system. If they add any more units, they'll be required to tie into our public sewer line, and we'll do evaluations at that time if the capacity is available and what it would take to do that.
So with the lots they have now, they're grandfathered in for the septic or whatever system they have now?
That's correct.
Okay. I mean, again, that was just more curiosity than anything to see what we had to do.
Anybody else? Any other questions, comments? All right, again, this is a public hearing. There'll be no actions by the council tonight, it's just opening the public hearing process. So is there anyone here who would like to speak to this annexation? I'm assuming this is one property owner, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, seeing none, then I'll close the public hearing, and we'll move to item L5. Jacqueline, you taking this one over?
Yes.
Good, we were tired of Joe anyway. Go ahead. Oh,
All right. Next item on the agenda is zone change request from R4 to planned area development by the Boers Company on approximately 10.64 acres located on the northwest, just north of the northwest corner of Jimmy Kerr Boulevard and Truckle Road. The project is for a multifamily development for 200 units. The major site plan is currently in review with staff. Again, here's the criteria for a PAD or a planned area development criteria. It goes into additional detail in the staff report provided. However, I'll be going over the two highlighted items. With regards to the city's general plan, the site is within the commerce and business land use category. This particular land use category allows for planned area developments as well as multifamily residential at a gross density of 10 to 45 dwelling units per acre. And as well, it should be adjacent to or within a quarter mile of the neighborhood's land use category. As you can see from the map, it is adjacent to neighborhoods, and the proposed development has a density of approximately 18.7 dwelling units per acre, meeting these requirements. With regard to the zoning ordinance, it will be subject to the 2021 residential design standards for planned area developments. It has requested the following standards, with height limit being 42 feet. And then per the residential design standards, no buildings are within 50 feet of the single-family zoning located to the north will be greater than, will not be that height. As well as parking standards would be approximately 1.75 parking spaces per unit. And as staff is reviewing the major site plan, we will ensure that the design standards are met at that time. Here are some elevations of the proposed development. Regarding notification, the staff and applicant has met or exceeded these requirements, and I have not received any comments or inquiries to date on this. Planning Commission forwarded a favorable recommendation to City Council to approve zone change from R4 to PAD with the following conditions, with a vote of 7-0. That concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you, Jacqueline. Does anybody on the council have any questions? Lisa?
More of a comment. You know, I know we're approving, you know, there's, as we can see, there's a lot of growth going on. And I just think, you know, it's nice to see these projects because there's such a need. You know, there's so many people that are heading out of town, you know, that are working in our community. So, you know, I love the fact that we're bringing more diverse housing options to our community, and they're spread out throughout the community. They're not just in one area. So, so yeah, so I know it seems overwhelming, and, you know, some people are excited about the growth, some people aren't. But I think the big issue are the roads. That's what people complain about. But I'm excited to see something like this. So.
Yeah, it's good. Matt?
I kind of I agree with Councilwoman Fitzgibbons, but also one thing we've discussed, because this was zoned for a mobile home residential, and we talked about how many of those we were getting and improving. So this takes one of those out and puts in something that was badly needed with the multifamily development. So it kind of ticks off two goals. And it is in a great area that's ready for new growth. So like you said, it's going around town, all different areas experiencing the growth. And, you know, we just got to keep managing it. So I like it.
Anybody else?
Ditto.
Mr. Powell?
I'm just going to comment, this would be much preferable to mobile home multifamily development, and I think the PAD would be a good fit for that corner.
Okay. All right, this is a public hearing, then, so I will open the floor to the public. Anyone here to speak for or against the project, please come forward, state your name and address.
Hello, everyone. My name's Ross Stitley. My address is 1921 Kendall Avenue in Madison, Wisconsin. I am the developer with the developer Roars Companies for this project. Just wanted to make myself available should there be any other questions.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any questions on it?
Hope you're enjoying the weather while you're here.
Yeah, absolutely. It was snowing when I left this morning.
You're like,
so
I'll
it was
go,
a nice
I'll go.
change.
End of the week's going to be 80. You might want to
stick around.
turn the refrigeration.
I've already been thinking excuses to stay. That's for sure. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here.
All right, anyone else? Okay, seeing none, then I will call for an ordinance number, please, Gloria.
Ordinance number 1178.416, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending zoning ordinance 1178 and its subsequent amendments by changing the zoning from mobile home residential to planned area development on property generally located north of the northwest corner of Jimmy Kerr Boulevard and Treco Road, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mayor McFarland, I move approval of ordinance number 1178.416 as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Powell.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, we have one more public hearing tonight,
See, I'm being
and
yesy.
that is L6.
right. Next item on the agenda is a zone change from B2 to plan area development on approximately 8.39 acres. The site is located just on the northeast corner of Cadota Avenue and Santa Cruz, just south of Rodeo Road. And again, this is another multifamily development for approximately 107 dwelling units. This is not in, the major site plan has not been submitted as of yet. However, here is the conceptual site plan that was provided and is in, as well in the staff report. Again, looking at, here's the PAD review criteria. It is outlined in additional detail in the staff report, and I'll, again, be going over the 2 highlighted items. With the general plan, this site is located in the community corridor land use category. This allows for plan area developments as well as multifamily at a gross density of 25 dwelling units per acre. This proposed development is currently at 21 dwelling units per acre. And again, looking at the goals for the community corridor is to promote high-density residential uses along urban corridors and near major commercial centers, and we feel that this site fits that category. With regards to the zoning ordinance, again, this will be subject to the 2021 residential design standards for planned area developments. The PAD narrative requests the following standards: a height of 40 feet and the following setbacks. During the major site plan review, staff will ensure that these design standards are met, as well as with additional residential design standards for PADs. With regards to notification, the staff and the applicant met or exceeded these requirements, and I did not receive any comments or questions or inquiries on this site. So with that, Planning Commission forwarded a favorable recommendation to City Council at their January 7th Planning Commission hearing to approve zone change from B2 to PAD with the following conditions of record, and the vote was 7-0. Happy to answer any questions.
Could you go back to the map? So Cadota and what's the other one?
Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz.
So are those roads going to be completed, or what would be? I know you're not at that stage yet, but would that be part of the?
Yes, through the major site plan review, a TIA would be required, or some sort of traffic statement to look at the road development.
Okay, so but you're not there yet. So this is an apartment complex, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this one's a little better.
There you go.
Mr. Mayor.
Because right now these are all dirt roads. There's no pavement.
Not even really roads.
Correct. However, Cadota, I believe, has the right-of-way for road
Because Santa
improvements.
Cruz isn't even there.
It's not a road, really.
So, Mr. Mayor, the Cadota will be improved for Half Street. It has to be able to carry two-way traffic from the project site up to Rodeo. Santa Cruz will not be improved. There is some right-of-way on what looks like it might have been in the past, the Santa Cruz connection from Cadota to Treckle. We've decided that that is not a necessary improvement. We don't want that connection to occur.
Okay.
So Santa Cruz between Cadota and Treckle will be nothing but sort of
A bike trail?
maybe a bike trail. It's going to be a sewer easement. Could be a bike trail. We're not going to
Part of our
vacate
trail
it.
system.
We're not going to vacate it as city-owned right away, but we're not going to improve it. But Cadota will be improved from the project site to Rodeo.
All right, I don't have any particular issue with it. I just was curious, that's all. Mr. Herman?
I don't know if this is appropriate time, but on the south side is that the manufactured home community there, which is a nice one. I mean, it's, what's the setback there? Or would that be later at the major site plan? I'd just be concerned about those residents,
We
with
got
their
the
view
Santa
sheds.
Cruz running through here too.
I know, which is a pretty good,
Yeah, it's pretty good right away.
Right.
Yes, we'll look at at that setback, but with the
Oh,
proposed
okay.
conceptual site plan, it's.
It's pretty far back.
Setback pretty far.
okay, thanks. I just don't want to alleviate any problems before they start.
Okay. Anybody else, any other questions, comments? Okay. All right, this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone here, I'll open the floor to comments on this subject, which is L6. Is there anyone here who would like to make any public statements? Okay, seeing none, then I'll close the public hearing and I'll call for an ordinance number, please, Gloria.
Ordinance number 1178.417, an ordinance of the council of the city of Casa Grande, Arizona, amending zoning ordinance 1178 and its subsequent amendments by changing the zoning from general commercial to planned area development on property generally located at the northeast corner of Cadota Avenue and Santa Cruz Road, Casa Grande, Arizona.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 1178.417 as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Gloria, can I please get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lavender.
Yes.
Councilmember McBride.
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgibbons.
Yes.
Councilmember Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Powell.
Yes.
Mayor McFarland.
Yes. All right, that concludes most of our business tonight. I think all that's left is our reports, so I'm going to start with you, Mr. Herman.
Thank you. I just want to say, I usually don't dress this snappy for the meetings, but ASU's playing U of A in basketball tonight, and this is what I would have worn to the game.
What's the score?
I haven't even checked, Mayor, because my duty's here, so I gave up my seat.
He was into this meeting, yeah.
And so, anyway, I thank you guys for your indulgence of me wearing this jacket this evening.
I tried to set him up, but he didn't take the bait.
And I purposely haven't looked. And then we had talking about community, a couple things. We had an unfortunate incident with the playground equipment that got burned. And Chief Keen made it on social media and put up his own money to help catch the culprits. So I thought that was pretty neat. And him bringing attention to it and trying to help catch those people. And along with community, most everyone has left by now, but as you saw how great the youth commission is, and as they were talking tonight about their project, they were in the back of the room, and one of the members of the roller derby and some other person I didn't see was writing checks to their cause already tonight. So the community heard, the community stepped up right here in this room. So it's just awesome to see.
That's awesome.
That's all I have.
All right, Mr. Powell?
Quick off and get somebody else real quick.
Lisa?
You know, I wanted to thank some of our departments for working together. For some of you may notice there was a homeless camp on Jimmy Kerr and Morrison, and there was several tents and, you know, people there. And so with not only code enforcement, Byron and Priscilla, worked together with Casa Grande PD, Chief Leos and Wendy, as well as Cara, to clean up the camp. And they got the homeowner involved, so they cleaned up the camp, and Cara, along with several other agencies. And I would just want to thank them because, you know, we have been working on this homeless coalition for several years, and everyone is willing to work together and want to work together. And so, you know, Horizon Health and Higher Heights, NCHP, Cara, were able to get with these, the people at the camp, and they were able to house out of the 10, 9 family members or families into shelters. So, of course, there's a long road and trying to get them jobs and, you know, permanent housing, but it was a combination of all these agencies working together. They were able to go out, interview everyone, and put them in temporary housing. So I just want to thank Public Works, our police department, you know, especially the sanitation. They said it was pretty much an all-day thing getting that thing cleaned up. So just want to thank all of them. For those of you that have seniors in high school, the Cesar Chavez of Pinal County has their scholarship application open until Wednesday. They're due on the 9th to Mr. Lavender's office. So for any of you that have seniors, they can go to Cesar Chavez, what is it, of Pinal? What is CesarChavezPinal.org, and the application is there, and that will close on the 9th. And then, you know I brought this up many times before, but, you know, the dogs that are around our community, I just really ask our community to please put collars and tags on your dogs. There's so many animals that are loose, and, you know, we know things, you know, happen and dogs get out, but, you know, our our animal control is busy, the Humane Society is full. I ended up with a dog in my backyard. Don't ask me how it got in my backyard. I had gates. I think someone put it in my backyard because they know I'm going to do something with it. But it had, literally, I don't know how it got back there. It's so crazy. So a dog was there, no collar, no tag, but I must say that lost and found dog on CG on Facebook, I was able to post the dog, and someone put their lost dog, and I found the owner. But, that, it was just, it was a happy ending, but I'm just asking people, please put a collar and a tag at least on your dog, so if it gets loose, we can find them a little bit faster.
Me now.
Mr. Powell.
Okay. I did not have the best week. I bought hearing aids for meetings, for when I came to meetings. Went home, took them out, had them on my desk, and the dogs ate them.
Oh, no. What?
Oh, my God. So I went down to get my buffer shot, and people from Tucson were real nice. They were in giving the shots, and it was in the library. So I left the library, and you're supposed to sit for so many seconds, and I thought, well, I'm probably good. And it wasn't far around the corner to Little Sombrero, so I had to stop there and get a bean burro and go home to eat it. And all of a sudden, I was just struck by dizziness. And I stood up and I knocked the chairs over in the kitchen and I fell on one of my back. I've been on the hot heat pad for about 3 or 4 or 5 days, but when they say to wait so long, I think they mean it.
Glad you're okay now.
Yeah, I'm okay.
I don't know if I can follow that.
Glad I'm a couple away.
I can say that, I attended the Senior Expo, so maybe Mr. Powell, you should have been down there. There was a Senior Expo at the Neon Park, and there was a lot of agencies there, and we had, a lot of visitors. And one of the things that struck me was how much we're using the Neon Park and how many people are coming downtown. And I think it's really cool that we have something for people to go to and use. And so that was nice. And then I know that the mayor and Matt, Lisa, and I were all at the Project Central Friday night dinner at the Paramount. And some of us have.
Separated, though.
Separated, yeah, we didn't sit. We didn't sit together, right? We didn't know.
So how'd you
And
get
it was really great. Terry Goddard was there, and they discussed water, and every time we discuss water, I always learn something new and different. The mayor did a great job at explaining what was going on, and it was really nice to see some of our area farmers there, and so that was really nice. And then the last thing I want to say is that I really appreciate the community coming together, and I know that, Mr. Lavender mentioned it to the Youth Commission, but there were a lot of people involved in what happened Friday, and the nice thing about it was that there were a lot of people that came out in support of teachers in the administration, and, it could have been much worse than it was, but I think that now is the time for parents to step up and practice what they preach, that we're telling our kids to do. And I think that parents can set examples, good and bad, and I'm just challenging our community to continue to show the kids the right way to deal with, disagreements. So that's it.
Thank you, Donna. Jeff?
Well, on the Cesar Chavez, the deadline is Wednesday to mail it or drop it off, but Friday you can email it to me as well. I wanted to compliment Mr. Raines and all of our city staff for their work coordinating the funeral for Chewy. Laura, it was a beautiful service. It was very touching, but certainly to coordinate all the agencies that were involved, I know it took a lot of work, but I was very proud to be a part of the city that day, as sad as it was. So I want to also thank Larry and Steve for their quarterly meeting. It was very informative. And Mayor, I know you have a rivalry with our Maricopa mayor, and I recently took over our 7th grade girls basketball team because a teacher is ill. That's why I was a few minutes late tonight, but we smoked Maricopa Wells tonight 32-4. And you can let the mayor know that I
Wait, I got a text.
I eased off. We could have beat them worse, but I eased off on them. But I heard the 8th grade game didn't go as well, so he might be coming right back at you.
Maybe I'll let the sleeping dog lie.
Yeah, so.
Thank you, Jeff.
That's funny.
That's good news, too. Thanks, I appreciate that.
Anything to be.
Anything.
grateful for.
Anything. Even middle school basketball. All right. So I've been doing a lot of work on electric vehicles and some other industry stuff that's coming into town, and I thought it kind of interesting. I was sitting in a meeting, and these are the numbers. So Ford's goal by 2030 is to have 50% of all their new vehicles be electric by 2030. It's 2022. GM's goal is by 2035 to be 100%. That's just a little over 10 years away. So my challenge to what I'm trying to challenge APS and SRP and really our industry out there is, where are we going to be putting these electric vehicle charging stations? Now they say, well, 80% of the vehicles are charged at home, or 80% of the time they get charged at home. So, well, but as more cars become prevalent in terms of electric vehicles, you're going to need more stations. So the other issue is then power grid needs and all of that. So anyway, I'm challenging them to come up with a plan. So we're working on a plan, at least for the city of Casa Grande, that we can actually have in place, and people will know where those stations are located. I know there's an app that you can go to find that out as well. But that's just something we're working on. And if you've been around, I know there's some signs. We're working on the water conservation and the Save It program. I don't know if you all saw this, but there's one at Dorothy Powell now, because we took out the grass and stuff
I did see that.
around Dorothy Powell and really kind of cleaned it up really nice. And now there's a sign that says Dorothy Powell Senior Center, and there's a little explanation, our bug, the Save It bug,
That's nice.
on there, and it explains, what we're trying to do in terms of water conservation. So you're going to start to see more of this around the city, especially as we make changes, so we can explain to people what we're doing. And one of the things too, I sat, and of course, legislature's in session right now, so that means it's nonstop. They have 1,500 bills that they've introduced into to be voted on, and I don't know what they think, but they obviously don't think that cities know how to do their business, cities and towns, because they always try to tell us what we should be doing. So if anybody's listening and you have any control over any of your legislators, tell them to knock it off and to work with cities and towns, because this really is where the rubber meets the road. And, council people and help set policy. Staff runs the city.
Towns are where they get their votes, too.
Well, sometimes I think they forget. So, anyway, I'm obviously a little frustrated with the legislature. There's also, Pinal County is redistricting, so if you're interested in having any input on that, there is a public meeting that will be here in our council chambers on February 23rd at 6 p.m. So if you're interested in the Pinal County redistricting, you might want to be at that meeting. Let's see, what else have I got? I did meet with Kohler last week. That was a really good meeting. So I think they're going to be a great corporate partner. They have school education programs that they work with the local schools. They're just really an amazing corporate partner. Yeah, they are. They are really a blue ribbon company, and I think they're going to be a great partner for us here in town. Not that we don't have great partners now. We do. We just have more now. Thank you, Matt.
It's kind of like relatives, you get more. as
We're
time
also,
goes along.
Larry and I met with a group last week as well, sit down and talk about a housing plan, and basically not really a plan, but it's a project where they're going to look at the city And then they can come back and say, all right, you should have X number of manufactured homes, you should have X number of apartments. So we have a benchmark, right? As we move and we continue to approve all these things, it could be something that we could use as a tool. So it's ASU, and it's one of the ASU professors in her graduate class, and she's going to actually do it for us. I'm not sure it didn't sound like it was a cost, but I don't know. We'll see. But it sounds like a really good project for her class.
We might get free if we work through the ASU guy.
So anyway, we're working with that. So we've got a lot of things in the works, and obviously Paul and your group will be part of that. And looking forward to kind of getting some additional information as we're also looking at densities and all that stuff, because I wanted to give you all some tools and information so that as these R2 situations come up, we'll be a little better educated in terms of what that looks like. So, that being said, stay safe out there, and let's be kind to each other and show some grace. All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.